Recording in progress.
Okay, so I need to go that, and it needs to be speakers are okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, great.
I accepted. I'll make sure the Yeti Nano. Yeah. So you can hear me okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds great.
It's on the right camera. Okay, cool.
And you are now host.
Yep, I see that.
Ta-da.
So the only other thing I want to do is I want to try to make it so I have to admit people.
And it should automatically been set up that way. I think
I know I see it that way typically, but last time the architects would just like add in when I wasn't ready for them. So then I'd have to like move them to the waiting room real fast.
Oh no. Okay. So let me just check the, like I see Jennifer's in the waiting room. Can you see her?
She's on here. So I don't think she's on the waiting room.
She just let herself in.
Okay. She just let herself in.
Gosh. Okay.
Yep,
That's
I'm
a
here.
weird.
I popped right in.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Let me see. I'm sure there's a setting. Let me.
There's got to be. Yeah. Hang on. I'm gonna look too. I think it's in participants somewhere. Under more, I think there might be some settings.
That's what I was thinking. Breakout rooms, support whiteboard.
Oh, wait.
I'm gonna
Waiting room is not a breakout room. That's the same.
Yeah. Enable waiting room. Click.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, Trisha, because the settings are to where they can't enter for the original Zoom meeting. They shouldn't be able to enter on their own. You should have to admit them. So I don't know why that's happening.
Okay. Enable waiting room.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, Jennifer, would you mind getting out and coming back in and seeing if that works?
Sure, you got it.
Thank you. Good. Project manager. Good.
Project manager, yeah.
It's so Hi. Hi. That works, Maggie, because it asked me to admit her. So
Oh, good. Okay, excellent.
okay, so I think we're good.
That's great. Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
Have fun tonight.
Okay, that works.
Bye.
Thank you. Oh, she's so connected. Okay, I'm gonna fix this camera because I feel like we're a little sideways.
Did I just pop in or did you guys let me in?
No, I was able to let you in.
Okay, that's great.
That looks fine, but depending on who else shows up, though, they're gonna be all. I'm not under, I'm not out there. Okay, okay. Okay.
You want your name down? In an agenda? Okay, so,
So Julie didn't do it. Okay, well, you gotta keep them happy. How you doing?
well, she wasn't like
Hey, Vicky.
totally against it, but, she just said, we're gonna kind of do that for you, so I think it's a little bit of a waste of your money.
Well, we do wanna save money, but.
Yeah.
Well, we need to then, we need to then talk to other. Building peeps about how it was dealing with Julie.
Yeah.
We get references on Julie, you know?
Yeah,
Is that-
that's a good point. That's a good point. Okay, so for the sake of time, I'm gonna call the meeting to order if we're good, because Jennifer's online and we got enough of us here, right? We're good with that? And you can hear us good, Jen?
Yes, I can.
Okay. We can't hear you, Chris.
Turn your volume up.
Oh, I don't think it's her. I think it's us.
Okay.
Okay, let me. Are you gonna try to turn it on the projector? Okay, so. Okay, so where we're at is. We have 3 architect firms coming, no, via Zoom tonight, just to kind of give us an overview of. Who they are. 2 of them are architects that are on Chico Unified's list, so they're pre-approved list of their 4 architects. One of the other ones, which is HMC, they respectfully declined, so we know they're out of the. Lionakis was the other one. I called them multiple times in our original 7, and I couldn't really ever get them to call me back, so. The third one is RGA. They're a local Chico architecture firm. They are more of a commercial, like they've done Sierra Nevada, but they also have done Achieve Charter School, the one here in Chico, and they're working on the Paradise one. So they have done school stuff as well. So. Did I give you? RGA. I have here. Oh, I thought I printed 5.
I already passed them out to both
Oh,
too.
thank you.
You're very well.
You know what?
I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, Jennifer, I'll try to email this to you really fast, the architect cheat sheet, okay? So. Hold on. I'm not that good at talking and doing something.
You're awesome.
No, you don't want that one. That will not be relevant to our conversation. Where are we at? We're at Blue Oak. Okay. Okay. Do I need to be recording this? I'm gonna do that.
Who's called the meeting to order and.
I did do that. Oh, it is
Yeah, yeah.
recording. Maggie already started. Okay. So on here, it will have RGA listed and kind of what they have done in my notes for them. Chico Unified actually recommended or suggested I reach out to them as well as another option because we do not have to go through DSA. Did we talk about DSA at this committee? Or was it the board? At the committee? Okay, the Department of something architecture. So it's a government state thing that, and it's a little. It prolongs it, makes it longer for them to approve it because they're just stricter guidelines because it's a public building like a public school, but because we're not a district school, and we're a charter school, we do not have to go through DSA, we would just go through our city planning, so through Chico, which saves us time and maybe money. So Chico Unified, Julie with Chico Unified say recommended or suggested I should reach out to them as another alternative because she thinks they'll be more cost effective. So
They're more commercial.
they're more commercial,
Than
they don't
schools.
specialize in schools, but they have done some schools. And they actually, Kevin is the representative, said he actually did the design here when we moved into this site. They helped us kind of facilitate that.
Nice.
So familiar a little
He
bit
knows
with,
us.
the other two firms, so I've left, these are the four firms that are on our list, right? 450, we already talked to, they've presented. Studio W, they're out of Sacramento. They also have an office here in Chico. Ty works for them.
Oh, really? Yeah.
But when I looked up Ty, the Ty, I remember it didn't look like the same picture, but somehow I think it is the same Ty.
Yeah.
So,
How do you know him, Hank?
Hi.
Hi. Oh, yeah.
his
Sorry.
It's okay.
his
I just let you go run with it. He was involved here heavily.
yeah.
He's
Yeah.
the board.
And he was involved
He
when
hired
we
me.
first started to look for a site. He was kind of our liaison a little
Right.
bit, right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
But when you-
Nice.
I don't know.
There you go.
so
Yeah.
he knows our school, right? If it's the same time, we'll
Yeah.
find out.
No, yeah.
Oh, that's TIGHE.
No, I think just TY,
So
but
that's why. It's
oh.
TIGHE. It's spelled very funky.
that's how he
He
spelled
spelled
it.
his name,
Oh, so maybe.
but
it's
it
not.
is not him.
So
Yeah.
maybe it is
Well,
not.
it's different type.
Yeah.
Okay,
PIGG.
and then,
TIGH. G.
let's see, so they do have a representative here in Chico and an office here in Chico. BLR Group is a huge firm. They are nationwide, but they have a Sacramento location. So that location, he's like, don't let it scare you that we're so big. Because when I went to their website, I'm like, these people are like all over the country. They also have a lot of experience, right? They've done a lot of different things. The local guy out of Sacramento, his name is Jesse. So those are the ones that we're gonna talk to today. I've told them just to keep it, like 15-20 minutes. Tell us a little bit about you, show us some projects that you've done. And then at the end of it, we can make a recommendation that who we want to go present to the board. We have a tentative meeting scheduled. We have a meeting scheduled for the board next Tuesday at 6 p.m. to hear the full presentations. They are all aware of that meeting because it was such short notice. I told them just to put it on their calendar as a placeholder. So they could present.
Are we gonna have them all present, or we're gonna let down, we're gonna make a smaller group, or?
I will decide
Okay.
tonight, but I think they're all really qualified, so.
Yeah. I think we just need Vicky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, Vicky and I met this morning with Dan Gonzalez, which is the developer for Marion Park.
How's he? How's he?
Good, yeah,
Still in school.
So
Yeah.
supportive of us.
yeah,
Said we're the only school he will let in.
Good.
yeah,
Sweet.
Yeah,
so
he's serious about his community.
super helpful. He really wants to help us in whatever way he can.
Did he
He
suggest anything?
can, he did have a lot of ideas. He gave us some, he kept telling me, you're going to write that down.
Yeah, okay. All right. I got it all right here.
He highly recommended Ty. Studio
Yeah, he
W.
really likes Studio W and Ty. He has worked a lot with RGA. He
Mhm.
said RGA is a great firm, but a lot of times when they go to RGA, they already have a conceptual design. They say, this is what we want now, put all of the nuts and bolts and make it so people can build it. He doesn't know how strong RGA is coming up with like a ground up imagination of the design, was his feedback, right? Is that pretty accurate?
Basically, yeah.
He thought Ty is gonna be really invested because they really want a project in Chico. Because they have that new office in Chico. He also said North Star Engineering is somebody he would really recommend. They have done almost all of the engineering in Marion Park, so they're familiar with the ground, the soils, all of that out there, so.
They're on it.
They would probably
Don't
save,
have to babysit them.
and they would save us money because they already know so much already about that area and the land.
they put in all the utilities.
Yeah,
Cool.
so they'll know all about all of that.
So to speak, another deal for them.
He connected us with somebody in his office, Lindsay. She is kind of like his project manager. He said that we can use her at no cost on his payroll.
Wow.
To really help advise us.
Wow.
So I had
If she can't fit us in.
a brief conversation with her on my drive here. And she's willing to help us. She just couldn't come tonight because she had another commitment. So she gave me some really good pointers.
Huh.
Cool.
So we'll
It's nice.
continue to have that conversation with her. I also, RGA recommended a local project manager. His name is Nick. At the bottom here, Nick Trover. Nick Trover. It's on the back sheet too, under project manager. So he's a local project manager. He has worked with quite a few charter schools. He's worked with Stream. He's worked with Fort Butte. He's worked with,
When's the notes and when's the,
um,
share, Nicole.
and so I talked to him yesterday. He was like, well, can you get together? So I met him here today at 1 PM. You met
I met
him
him, yes.
briefly. Susan popped in too and got to meet him.
Nick
So
Trover.
project manager is kind of like the owner's representative, is how somebody else described it. Like they're the one advocating for us, like keeping in line the architect, keeping in line the civil engineer, the structural engineer, the land, like
Like
keeping
that
us on
gentleman at the
budget.
end that
Like
day.
Wayne.
Yeah,
Same
Wayne, yes.
Yeah. So I was feeling really good after that. And then I called Julie at Chico Unified and she's like, I think having a project manager is a waste of money. And I was like,
And everybody, but
She
everybody
said
else keeps
that's
telling
her
us.
job.
she said
sure.
because Chico
Why?
Unified is going to fill that role.
Okay.
But I feel right, and they said, well, right now I feel like we're floundering right now because we don't
We don't
have
have that.
that support.
You think if we had a project manager, we'd be more ahead?
Yes,
Well, he
What
tells
aspect?
us.
because I think they would be directing us and choosing the architects. And they would be asking the questions that we don't know
To ask.
to ask.
Could you set this up any faster?
Could I set it up? in
I mean, I don't know how much faster you could have done this, right?
Oh, I don't.
We
Yeah,
could,
anything else?
if we'd gone to Dan Gonzalez 3 months ago, we could have an architect.
So
Anyway, the point is, I think we're fine with that project manager for now. Let's make that decision.
So, yeah, so I think it's something to think about. I see Julie's point.
Yeah.
I talked to Lindsay, which is Dan Gonzalez's project manager. She said, she gave me some questions to ask Chico Unified. She's like, cause it depends on, like, somebody
I
said,
needed
how
to-
involved are they going to be? What are they doing? Are they just being
Thank you.
like an admin overseer? Because
Right.
that's not what you need. You need somebody that's gonna look at your plans and say, oh, you forgot this,
Yeah.
you forgot that, you forgot this.
Yeah,
So
a person that's familiar with it.
if they're not going to do
Yeah.
that for you, then you need another
Yeah.
project manager. So she's like, you need to clarify what they're going to do.
Yes.
So I will do that.
Okay.
and then we
Good.
can have that.
Yeah.
conversation.
Thank you for doing.
Yes.
Rock.
If you need help with that, I mean,
Okay, so that is kind of where we're at in
cool.
very quick
Thank you.
nutshell.
Okay.
That property is so ideal.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dan
yeah.
talked about the
The
fact
park,
that the park behind, the
that's big.
park that
Oh.
borders the whole long curved side,
Yeah.
the creek. Half of it's gonna be open field grass maintained by CARD. The other half is gonna be all in natives and natural. They'll take care of fire. I mean, they'll mow it that much, but not much more, but they will, we're gonna have a green field right next to the school. It'll be outside, but it'll be right there. It's just, and it's, Yeah.
I'm gonna
it's
see
a
if I
prime.
can.
It's-
pull this
We were
up.
lucky to have it, even though we wish it was twice as big, but.
Yeah. We always want
What
everything
did
half
we
the
pay
price,
for
right?
it? What did we pay for it?
Very nice.
2 million something.
2?
Yeah,
Pretty good.
okay, here we go. I'm gonna pull this up.
For that 2.3.
This is Dan's,
For
Dan's
ground
picture
shovel.
that he
Yeah.
drew us, Vicky and I at coffee today. Okay, so this is our lot.
Oh, when we met with him that one day.
No, today,
Oh.
Vicky and I met with him today.
Oh, nice.
So this is our lot, this is the park, right? So this is kind of his idea. Jen and I spoke a little
Ours
bit,
is right
this
up the
half,
corner there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so this is,
Right.
this is Bruce Road.
Mhm.
This is Apodaca, is that how you say it?
Mhm.
This is our land and this is the
Mhm.
prospective park. So they're in the process of starting to design this, so he wants our input on it. So
We wanted
th-
it.
as of right now, this is his spot where he's gonna put the grass area because there's no trees here, and then
Mhm.
kind of a walking path throughout, picnic tables.
As well as the bike path that is.
Yeah, and the bike path
Already
is there,
existing
and
there.
then some native landscaping that he's working with the Machupta and the Maidu to do over here. But he would like our input on this, so if anybody has any ideas, Jen and I talked today a little bit, and I got to chat with Mr. Myers for a few minutes about this. One idea is that Dan Gonzalez brought up when we met with him a year ago, was having kind of like workout stations.
Yeah.
Because they don't want like
Oh, yeah.
playground equipment, right?
Right, like the little park has that.
Yeah, kind of.
Like a stretching station and stuff
Yeah.
like that for when people are going on,
Yeah.
like we have at
Not
Walmart.
like a pull-up
Yeah.
bar
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
something to do
Or
to get
stretch
outside
thing,
or-
or, yeah.
So,
Uh-huh.
Mr. Meyer brought up a good point, is we would all need to be in one area, because when you're out there, you need to have eyes on the kids, because
Yeah.
they're outside the fenced in area.
Right.
Mhm.
The other idea was kind of like a little bit of a obstacle course kind of
Mhm.
exercise run.
Yeah,
Well, and also just
juniors.
as the
Okay,
natives
that's what
are
he said.
planted, you label the natives and give their
Yeah, for like a
their
nature
value
walk.
inside the ecosystem.
like.
You know, so it's a
like the
whole
Chico
nature
State
walk.
Seed farm,
Yeah,
like the tree farm area.
so
They have little plaques
we
and
need to
things.
get him
Yeah.
some
And
feedback on that at some point
Okay.
soon.
and
So that's gonna be a usable space for us that they're gonna
Yeah.
develop, and then, so we'll be able to have a gate and go through there
Yeah.
and go there with the
Yeah,
children.
his idea is, right, we'll have a gate somewhere along here, because this will all be fenced
Right.
in, so we'll be able to go in there. This could be a large grass area for, right, soccer or the javelin, or, you know, those kind of
For
things.
card sports.
no,
For
us.
Us,
Well,
we
our-
can
it's
use
a
the
card,
kids.
it's a card park.
Yeah,
So
card
card,
picnic.
it's not gonna be just for us.
I know.
I
Yeah,
wonder if
but
yeah,
people
but we'll be able to
sign
do
up
Cards
for
use
it.
it too.
Yeah,
I don't know.
The card main piece is that East 20th Street Park. That's what they mainly use, like for their,
I'm just saying, it's cards everywhere.
like
so they-
for.
Yeah, but during
Oh,
school
these are
hours,
soccer field.
During school
for
hours?
Soccer.
during,
Soccer.
yeah,
these are
during
soccer.
school hours, they probably aren't gonna have activities, like after school stuff.
Yeah,
During-
So,
something we met one with.
but yeah, so I think on our next
It's
meeting, we
definitely
should
not gonna
maybe
be
talk about this
hours,
tonight,
so
kind of
we
a
can't
full agenda, but
say
try to
we're
get
gonna
him
use
some
it.
feedback
They say
sooner
they're
than
gonna.
later on that.
And I think it
Yeah.
sounds like a really good idea for that middle school to design a natives garden.
Yeah.
We'll get
Okay,
something in there for all.
so we
And
have some
Dan
people,
Gonzalez was the one that wanted
It's
feedback,
6:02.
Tricia,
6:02, yeah. our
yeah,
first
they,
grade.
we have some people in the waiting room.
but Dan Gonzalez was
Definitely,
the one
okay.
that asked for
I
the
don't know who
feedback.
Rachel was. Yes,
I didn't know.
okay. Okay, so who are we doing first? Let me get my Studio W. So we have Brian and Ty is with Studio W. I don't, let me just ask Rachel really fast, and then I'm gonna
Go
go.
high.
Yeah, are we good
Mhm.
to let Studio W in?
Yes.
Maybe I'll just ask Brian if Rachel is with.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's different, I think.
I don't think it's one.
Mhm.
I just looked at it.
Hi, guys. I see Brian and Ty.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, guys. Question, is Rachel with you guys?
Yes, she is.
Okay, I'll let her in then.
Yeah. She is allowed.
Okay. Okay, it's okay, yeah. Hi, I'm Trisha. I talked to Brian briefly, so I know there's a group of us, so I'll raise my hand. So I'm Trisha.
Hi, Tricia. Nice to meet you virtually.
Thank you for coming. So this is our facilities committee, kind of like I spoke to you about. So we have a mixture of parents, community members, like teachers, retired teachers, and staff and facility as far as like building maintenance and administration. So that's kind of our group that we have tonight. You can't see them all because they're outside of the camera, but they are all
Sure.
here, and they
Sure.
can see me here.
Wonderful.
So I will I shared with them what you've sent with me, like your summary of qualifications. I shared that with them last week already.
Right.
Whether or not they read every page, I'm not sure, but they, I'm sure, perused through it. And I gave them kind of a brief overview of what you and I have spoken about, a little bit
Yep.
as well. So, But yeah, I will let you take it away. You should be able to present, I hope.
Okay, wonderful. Wonderful.
We'll have to figure that out.
Share my screen. Can everybody see it? Okay. All right, great. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. We're just gonna turn our volume down a little bit.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you for the opportunity. We'll start with introductions on our end. I'm Brian Whitmore. I'm the president and CEO of Studio W. Hi.
My name is Tayo Kovic. I'm an architect, client leader here with Studio W.
I'm Rachel Clemente. I am the design leader and senior associate at Studio W Architects.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
So we've got a presentation. Thank you, Tricia and team, for allowing us to put this together. We kind of obviously put it together very quickly based on our conversation last week, and I appreciate the fact that you've read through our proposal. Granted, that proposal was for Chico Unified School District, so it probably didn't talk a lot about our charter school experience and some of the thoughts we have pertaining to your project and your site. So that's what we want to do today. So just by way of a little introduction, we'll go through our agenda, kind of talk just briefly about who we are, offer some relevant experience, just kind of share with you some of the projects that we've gone through that may or may not be similar to yours. Talk a little bit about project delivery opportunities, because it's really important that how this project is delivered, particularly as it pertains to things like cost and schedule and budget and those sorts of things, is really important. And it's important to us as we serve you as your architect. We actually started to look at even some site opportunities there on the site that you have, and some, yield studies and what that potentially might look like. And then that differentiates us as an architecture firm. So to talk a little bit about who we are, as I mentioned, my role is a principal in charge, meaning that I'm oftentimes a primary promise keeper. We are a small firm, so I will get very much involved in projects from start to finish, a bit like a senior project manager, but it's really my role to make sure that the promises that we make, we keep. And I have a ton of experience, probably 25 years plus now of experience in public education, a lot of charter school experience. I know you folks are a Montessori focus, and one of my first projects when I got out of college, I was a Cal Poly grad. I worked on Sacramento Waldorf School because our firm designed Linden Hall. I don't know if you're familiar with that site or that project. We did a multi-purpose building there, music spaces and other things, and we actually used that design for many iterations of different private schools and even some schools for the Catholic Diocese of Sacramento for a long time. So I did have some experience working in that. Hi.
I would be playing the role of senior project manager on this project and your primary point of contact. One of the benefits is I'm a Chico resident. I've been a Chico resident for the past 20 years. I'm located here, and one of the keys to our service is being in person.
Rachel.
Yeah, and my role here as design leader is basically to provide design input and guidance to meet your programming needs in support of Ty being there in Chico. I will also review the plans for design conformance. Once you approve that, all the way through construction, throughout project completion, I want to make sure that nothing has changed along the process down the line. I also am the resource for a lot of my colleagues for the charter school experience. So that's how I've come into the fold. My daughter goes to a charter school, and I actually went to a Montessori school growing up. So this is fun for me.
Nice.
Thank you.
And one of the things we listed here too is just some of our preferred consultants. These are some of the folks we work with oftentimes in projects in your region. In particular, Northstar, we have a really strong relationship with Northstar, a civil engineer, and I'll talk a little bit about how that led us to open a Chico office here in a moment. But we know that they have some knowledge, obviously, on the site in Miriam Park, and I think that's really important working with them. Let's go on to the next slide here. So just by way of the numbers, about 92% of our revenue is generated through public education work, and that includes charter school work all throughout the state of California. We have 4 offices, Sacramento, San.
Hey, Brian, can I have you pause just a sec? Sorry, our speaker is acting up, and I'm gonna see.
That's okay.
If I can switch it and see if it helps. So Give me.
I
Okay.
had trouble with my microphone earlier. Is it just
Way
me?
better.
Can you hear that better?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, you got it. Okay.
I hear you fine, Brian. You're good.
Okay, all right, good.
It's our speaker, so I put you on my computer and you'll be
It's
really
way
loud
better.
for me, but everybody else can hear you. so.
Okay, perfect. All right, wonderful. So I mentioned we have 4 offices, Sacramento, San Jose, Newport, and then we opened our Chico office just this last year. And really that came from the fact we've done a lot of work in the region. We work for Chico Unified School District, of course, but we were the folks that have been redoing a lot of Paradise's schools. So we had done their master plan prior to the Camp Fire, and then when the Camp Fire came through, we've been the architect that's done all that work up there ever since, and we continue to work with them. In fact, we're trying to get them to pass a bond in November so that they can rebuild Paradise Elementary. We work in Thermalito. There's a couple of other small clients, Durham and others in and around that area. But we've been working with North Star Engineering for a long time. North Star had a small architecture firm, which Ty and about 5 other staff were part of. And we acquired them largely because of our focus there in that region. And so Ty came into the fold and has been working with us ever since.
Nice.
Let's see. Talk a little bit about our charter school experience. A lot of it in Northern California. We've worked with groups like Kairos in Vacaville, Natomas in Sacramento, Capital College and Career Academy also in Sacramento, Serendipity in Belmont. Few folks down in Southern California. I think Tricia, when we talked, I mentioned a charter school developer that we work with as well. Very different sets of requirements and needs when it comes to the types of things that they're looking at. Everything from modernization to new construction to ground up sites, brand new. And I think the one thing that has in common is that they all have a unique focus. Natomas is very much a visual and performing arts campus. Vacaville has a real strong at-home support program. Serendipity, you will see, has a very unique and interesting sort of exploratory way that they look at education and at their playgrounds and outdoor spaces. And so it's something we take pride in because oftentimes it's just very different, very diverse in terms of the types of projects that we have there. I'm going to hand it over to Ty, maybe talk just a little bit about the region that your property is in and our knowledge of that area.
Yeah, I've had the fortune of building my career here in the Chico area. And I'm intimately familiar with Marion Park specifically. I've had the pleasure of working with Dan Gonzalez and his team at the development company. Actually, the first project they ever did just south of the courthouse, the foundation building, home of North Valley Community Foundation, was a project of ours. And we're very familiar with the site. I've spent countless hours out there, all the seasons that you can imagine in different weather conditions studying. I've been on your site too. We've done everything from commercial to retail to multifamily residential. We understand the eclectic nature of the architecture and really the opportunity that it presents to you and your organization to kind of form your own architectural language, something that's timeless and placemaking.
Yeah, and one thing I'll point out as well, Little Chico Creek Elementary School is one of our projects. We're adding a TK expansion to that site. I know that's Chico Unified, but working with them, understanding their process, how they deliver business, knowing that they're the landowner, they're going to be involved in this process. It's important that you understand that we understand how to work with them. And so that's a part of this sort of regional experience as well. I'm going to hand it over to Rachel. Rachel's going to talk a little bit about just some example projects, and then we'll kind of get into your project more specifically and talk about the opportunities that exist there.
Perfect.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, so before we embark on any project with any charter school, we always try to learn about their pedagogy, just so that we can implement majority of that in the layout and the spacing of the campus master plan. In this case, Kairos Charter School is houses multiple academies, right? So phase 1 that you see there on the screen is houses what they call the flexible based learning or their independent study program. So it was important for them to get this going right away because their lease was up in the other site. And so this houses that academy, and also it houses the curriculum for that, for the students enrolled in that program. Phase 2 is what you see in the back, where it says classrooms. That houses the early childhood education, which is basically very hands-on learning. They like a lot of outdoor play, learning through play, that sort of learning pedagogy. And then what else? It's outdoor spaces, blurring the lines between outdoor and indoor learning spaces. The other finger wings will house the middle school program. And that one is, the focus is really civic engagement and developing learning, early leadership skills. Next slide, please, Brian. So what's nice about this is it was a ground up facility for the first phase. The way we decide the rest of the project is for it to be modular in size, that because it is a phased master plan, we would like them to have the ability to go either way, whether it's a ground up or possibly a modular structure that can kind of mimic the look of the design, which we've done before. So that's the beauty of this layout, because phasing obviously involves funding capability, right? So that's why we did it that way. It's close to a residential neighborhood, a new up and coming Brighton Landing specific plan. It's close to the neighborhood park where they could possibly have a joint agreement with the city of Vacaville. There is a lot of open areas here for their athletics program. Like Brian said, they have a robust athletics program. So that's basically what Kairos covers. Next slide, please, Brian. Natoma's Charter School. This one houses 2 academies, right? It's already an existing site, an existing campus. You see all the blocks in white, those are the existing buildings. The things that pop out in color, those are the additional expansion areas for the campus. They wanted to bump up their enrollment numbers and zone the academies accordingly, because right now they're kind of all over the place. So this allows them to zone the Leading Edge Academy, which is one of the academies that's housed here. And then the second academy is called the Performing and Fine Arts Academy, which specializes in theater arts, visual arts, performing arts, band, music, all that stuff. So it is important for them to be able to house that and zone the academies in a strategic way so that they're kind of self-contained. Leading Edge has a strong athletics program as well, so it's perfect that they're there close to the track and field area. And everything else is the PFAA, which shows how little the Leading Edge Academy component is compared to the Performing Arts Academy. So that's the beauty of this. Next slide, please, Brian. So like I mentioned, it's a modular solution because funding is always, a reality that we have to face. So the modular solution is a good aesthetic solution to meet their budget. So that's phase 1. You see the 2-story modular here. We went 2 stories because of site constraints. And also it feels just more compact, and it just has, it maximizes the views into the training fields, which is the focus of Leading Edge Academy. So we were maximizing efficiencies. We are close again to a neighborhood park. And it is a phased approach because it is a funding issue. Thanks, Brian. That was it.
Yeah, and the last project we wanted to share with you quickly, this is Serendipity School. It's actually not a charter school, it's a private school. It's in Belmont, California. One of the reasons I want to share it with you, because it's just very synonymous with the sort of Waldorf-based learning that you guys obviously want to show. And we had looked at, this was actually an existing school, existing public school that was taken over by this facility a number of years ago. They were operating an existing classroom. They were adjacent to the existing park. It has a lot of change in elevation. They were on a hill, but really beautiful site, big mature trees, wonderful landscape. It was really a challenge trying to figure out how can we add more space, more classrooms and multi-purpose space, but at the same time create these really wonderful exploratory playgrounds and different sorts of things. And so what we ended up coming up with was a combination, as I mentioned before, of sort of a hybrid between modular and then existing modernization. The modular building there on the upper right-hand side is actually an American Modular Systems Gen 7 building. It houses multi-purpose and some other classrooms. It opens up onto the hard courts there. And it kind of gives them a different sort of new feeling with the stone and some of the other elements out there kind of creating this space. But the real magic, I think, on this campus is in the playground spaces that we created. And this was really interesting because really what we were trying to do here is create an ADA accessible pathway between the school and park. And in order to do that, we had to have this long circuitous ramp that came up at, 1 and 12 all the way up the hill. And it created these little eddy spaces, and those eddy spaces became these really wonderful little playground areas. And you can see there they have outdoor musical elements and swings, and even this little shelter that becomes part of their outdoor learning program. And so some of the kinds of things that we might expect you to kind of consider as you're thinking about how you plan your site, how you consider a lot of the ideas and the concepts that you want to program. So one of the things, Tricia, when we spoke, a lot of delivering a project is making sure you hire somebody that can manage the project properly, not just design it, but manage it all the way through. And we talked a lot about, sort of project delivery opportunities. What's the best way to deliver a project like this? Where can we save money? Where can we save time? Time is money, and we still see construction escalation happening. So it's really important that we understand how we're delivering the project, what the limitations and the opportunities are with the district as the property owner. We talked a little bit about DSA versus local jurisdictional approval. And it was said that, right now the interpretation from the district is you don't need to go through DSA. And that's great because you don't have the Field Act component. Field Act is what came around in the 1930s that basically said all public schools have to be built to a much higher standard. And it adds cost to the project. One of the challenges a little bit though with local jurisdiction is that you have to go through a more rigorous planning entitlement process, right? So we have to go through and identify what's the building going to look like, how is it going to be used, there's a conditional use permit, those sorts of things that enable this project to be utilized in the future. There's a possibility, and I talked with Julie Kissel about this a little bit last week, that we could have you exempt from local planning authority simply because of the fact that, again, the property is owned by the district. So that really means you're just going through the building department locally. And if we can do that, we can save you a lot of time because that process is about a 6-month to a year process. We talked a little bit about prevailing wage versus non-prevailing wage. That's the big ticket item. If we can somehow find a way to get you out of prevailing wage and into a non-prevailing wage, essentially non-union type of construction, that could save probably as much as 25% in construction costs. And talking to Julie again, she's saying, no, it needs to be prevailing wage. I'm not so sure. I'm not convinced. I'd like to have some further conversations if we were to be hired about, could you do a ground lease? I think that's the way the arrangement is now that would enable you to sort of be a sovereign entity from the school district and be able to run this project on your own. And if that's the case, and you could consider prevailing wage, then you could consider essentially negotiating with a contractor early, get that contractor on board to be a partner in the process. And I think that's really key. One of the other things we mentioned by Rachel and Thomas and myself and Serendipity, having relationships with modular contractors. You've already kind of come to the conclusion you're probably going to have to consider some modular solutions. And I think you're right. What I understand of the funding that you have available, both with the pre-existing bond, potentially the new bond, and this application process for getting more funding, along with whatever other funding that you might be able to garner, it's always going to be a stretch. And I think there's some really wonderful modular concepts out there that might work well. The one on the upper right, there is a product called TimberQuest, and we're using it right now in West Sacramento at a project called Elkhorn Village Elementary School. It's part of Washington Unified School District. It's modular, a little bit different in that it's actual slab on grade, so it's permanent construction, but it's heavy timber, it's wood, and it's beautiful inside. All the exposed wood. Inside, we can do exposed wood outside. It's a very sustainable product. And we find that for, again, the type of use that you might be considering in a Waldorf environment, it might be a great fit. So we would want to explore those things, look at the pros and cons of different modular manufacturers, perhaps even look at what stick building or hybrid thereof of stick build modular might do. But ultimately, I think you're going to have to consider some of these as you think about the budget that you have to spend, because just the site improvement costs, to get out of the ground are going to be significant, right? When it comes to grading, drainage, utilities, all of those things that go into, developing a project of this kind. Ty.
Well, after we took in your design presentation on YouTube, we couldn't help but feel inspired to take a stab at laying out the project based on your programmatic needs. So we set a baseline here, all one story. All of the versions that we're going to show you here equate for about 28,000 to 31,000 square foot. That accounts for all 11 of the primary classrooms that you want, including the preschool, TK, and kinder, and then the 10 additional classrooms, and then of course all the support spaces that go along with that. As you probably came to a conclusion much earlier than us, a one-story solution can fit. You're just left with very little outdoor space. And there were some things we gleaned from that video, like this quad amphitheater concept, to really enhance your ability to promote the ceremonies that you have, like the first 8th grade Rose Exchange, being able to have a diverse approach to the outdoor spaces, both formal and informal. You have forest play and still the classic athletics. If we could go to the next slide, you'll see that as we move to 2-story, it starts to free up a lot of space. And we've taken a couple different approaches between what you see here and what you'll see next. With the early childhood, the preschool, TK, kinder, up in the top right-hand corner, next to Bruce, next to parking, there's some intuitive links there. We've also explored another alternative that we'll see in a bit, but this one has the buildings backing up to the park area that will front Little Chico Creek. And there are some advantages to that. You can play this kind of mystery peekaboo with the garden gate and access to those spaces, and still create a large contiguous outdoor play area. But if we move to the next slide as an alternative approach, and again, these last two are 2-story configurations, we've moved that early childhood further to the west. And we flanked Bruce with the buildings kind of opening to the southwest and engaging the park area. All of them still have the same programmatic elements with that central quad amphitheater area, the classic track, the forest play, covered play areas. I couldn't help but think while watching the video, many of you that are from the area here probably been to the plant barn many a times. But as a counterpoint to the rectilinear structures that you're going to find in modular construction, you can still get authentic materials like Brian talked about. I kept going back to this image of the greenhouse structures that they have there for open air covered outdoor space with the beautiful slatted wood, and you can really experience whether it's the rain or other elements in nature.
Yeah. Now, one of the things you kind of see here, and I think is inherent in all of these concepts, and again, these are done in a vacuum, they're very sort of off the cuff, but you can see the buildings kind of be arranged around the perimeter, trying to protect that interior space. That's the safety and security hallmark of really having one point of entry, the administration there with eyes on the street, trying to protect that inner area. That can be open to the park potentially, really trying to maximize the open space as much as possible. That's where the potential of 2-story comes in. I will admit 2-story is a little bit more expensive because you've got, vertical circulation, you've got elevators, stairs, but that's where we can explore different options and look at the possibility of 1-story versus 2-story. Rachel mentioned the 2-story building at Thomas Charter School. That project has a modular elevator as well. So there's modular concepts there that enable some cost savings when we consider 2-story. But every time we do a 2-story building, we've got a couple of stairs, got that elevator component as well. And that does add some cost. So those are the kinds of things we might explore. We'd start to think about. The other key piece I think here is phasing. Trying to master plan this site for what its full potential is, knowing that maybe if the funds aren't there exactly day one, there are things that you can do. And that was expressed in Kairos. It's been expressed in other projects, certainly that we've done with districts and other charter schools across the state. But ultimately, we want to look at the opportunity of saying, how much do you need? How much is sort of on the wish list? Are there things that could be built over time? Is there an opportunity to expand as funds become available if funds aren't all there day one? And so I think that's some of the biggest challenges you face is, trying to figure out that program, balancing that program with the funds that you might have available in the future, and then being able to put that forward as quickly and as effectively as possible. Because again, we want to get you to a point where you can begin enjoying this and having that wonderful interaction between students and teachers and the community. So what differentiates us? This is our last slide. I think a couple of things. Being local is really important. I think having boots on the ground, having Ty here and his team is really important. The fact that there's going to be many site visits, many programming meetings, many other things. we always, I like that we have Zoom, but I always want to be in person where we can. So I was a little disappointed, Tricia, we couldn't be there in person today, but I know there's an opportunity at board meeting in the future. But that's really important for us is being there, being, part of that community, understanding what that site needs and what you guys need and you want to put there. Having that regional experience, I think with Miriam Park, working with North Star and others, understanding if you're going to go through local jurisdictional review and you do end up going through planning entitlements, Ty has worked with City of Chico multiple times on that, both planning department and building department. And that's really important. And then the fact that just the expertise when it comes to charter schools, you guys are unique like many. At the same time, you've got to figure out how best to deliver that education and do it effectively. And, we want to, as Rachel mentioned, really understand you and your culture and then be able to put that to work with coming up with the best delivery method and the best design that we can to make that real. So that's who we are. That's some of our experience and some early concepts. And I'd love to be able to answer some questions. If you have some questions, we can stop sharing.
Yeah, that is great. A lot of great information. I have a few questions, but you want me to start?
You go.
Okay. So one of our things I think we talked about a little bit is time frame, right? So
yes,
we are really trying to hit a June 27 time frame if at all possible.
Yeah.
So because of the current building we're in, the lease we're in, and the cost that it's costing us. So do you think that if we move quickly and
Yes.
no, yeah. If we move quickly and making a decision and hiring like an architect like you guys, do you think that's something that's doable?
yes.
Okay.
And I think the question really comes down to two things. I mean, number one, funding, obviously. What funds do you have in place in order to move that forward? I understand in talking to Julie a little bit, there are some funds that you have kind of set aside to begin this what we call the soft cost process, right? Hire your architect. If you don't already have a survey, I think you do for the site, geotechnical reports, some of the things that you're going to need to get that going. That's really important. The design process certainly can happen quickly. The issue is going to be agency approvals. If you end up going local jurisdiction with the City of Chico, like I mentioned before, if you're forced to go through that process with local planning, then that's going to take another 6 months to a year. That's going to hurt that 27, fall of 27 start. So I think the criticality there is if you move forward, we want to make sure that you're either going to Chico but not planning department of Chico, or you're going DSA. And I know there's a lot of aversion towards DSA because of this perception, again, of the Field Act and the cost that it adds. Every single one of these modular manufacturers we just mentioned, for example, they all build the DSA standards. And so there's really no difference. There's no savings not going through DSA versus, the City of Chico. So I think very quickly you'd want to ascertain, and we would help you do this. What is the process? What's the agency approvals that we would need to go through, and then build that schedule based on that. But there's no reason that if we got started now, that you couldn't get going. And the modular components, one of the benefits there too, is that we can get them manufacturing ahead of time to where we're not sitting out there for a year in construction, right? The key is getting those pieces in place. The other challenge a little bit, as I mentioned, is construction, the contractor, right? If we can get the contractor on board early, you probably have heard that switchgear, for example, for a new electrical service can take 18 months to get once we order it. If we don't have a contractor on board 18 months prior to 2027, right, fall of 2027, then we're in a pickle. And I think wanting to get that contractor on board as early as possible. When I talked to Julie, she said, well, we want to go design, bid, build, which is your normal, we design it, goes out to bid, contractor builds it. Problem with that is that we really need that contractor on board earlier than that so that they can do some long lead item procurement. And I think the best way to do that is kind of sit down and go through and say, could the district consider leaseback, for example? That's a mechanism that they have. Or again, under a site-based lease, can you guys operate essentially as your own entity, as your own developer of the land, even though it's owned by the district, and procure through your own process? And I think we've got to build that schedule out and figure all of that. But I don't think there's any reason why we can't. It's just we've got to be able to kind of solve those key issues.
Okay, that makes sense. And I think part of the leasing the land back, from what I understand, it is because we're using those bond funds,
Funds.
right? That opens it up to us, not like skirting that, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, and I'll say this between us. Chico loves to use design bid build.
Yeah,
All the other districts use lease back.
okay,
And lease back enables you to get your contractor on board early. Paradise uses it, Thermalito uses it. I think that's just Chico. They just feel like bid build is the best way to go because it's the most straightforward upfront, lowest responsible bidder gets the work, et cetera, et cetera. If you're stuck in public contract code, you still have to go prevailing wage. You have to go through their process. I would say, why not consider lease back and get a contractor on board early and get some of those long lead on procurement things done.
yeah.
So something to consider.
No, I love that. The other thing, and not for this meeting, but what I would love as a follow-up is, right, part of this is cost, like we're talking about. So if you guys could have something that kind of shows like what your costs are, right? And I know that now I'm learning all this, so I might not use the right lingo, but like there's a design element cost, and then there's a construction admin kind of overseeing cost. And from what I understand, sometimes those can be broken up and sometimes they can be together. And so kind of explaining that and kind of what your guys' costs are. And I know we're short on for tonight, but I would love that as like a next step to kind of hear from you guys on.
Sure. I mean, I can give you just a quick synopsis, but in effect, our fees are oftentimes based on construction cost, right? So it's a percentage of construction cost based fee. That's typically how architects do it. We follow OPSC's, the Office of Public School Construction's sliding scale. So they basically say, new construction is a certain percent, modernization is a certain percent, modular has a certain percent because, we don't have to necessarily design the full building, right? The building's already there. We're just siding it and doing other things. So part of that, in order to kind of give you a full-fledged fee, we would want to do some analysis of what do we think the cost of the project is going to be in construction? What do we see as, the elements, what's stick-built new construction, what's not? What do we encounter in terms of any specialized? There's really nothing specialized here, but there may be, I don't know if you have a kitchen that you want to do. I imagine you're going to have some sort of food service component. There might be a food service consultant or something like that. And then we can break it up: schematic design, design development, construction documents, agency approval, construction administration. And there's usually certain percentages then, set aside for each one of those. The way I would do this is I would start with just a schematic design agreement and break it up. Start with that, so that we can define the scope, we can define the schedule, we can define the budget. And what ends up happening is then we would build the rest of our fee based on the rest of the project moving forward. And we all kind of know what we're going into. If you ask me to put a fee together today, I'm going to be wrong. And I'm going to be wrong in favor of you, or I'm going to be wrong in favor of us. And I think that the reason why is because we just don't have enough information, right? We don't know exactly how much money you might be working with, exactly, what some of these delivery methods might look like. We want to nail that down. And I think the way to do it is we put together, and it could just be a time and materials based fee, just how many hours do we think we need to define those things and what's our billable rates. And we put that forward. And then once we're done with that, then we arrange a fee on the whole thing and we deduct out what we've spent in the beginning because that becomes part of the larger piece.
And part of this, Brian, part of the schematics design phase is we're going to engage a contractor to do, or a cost estimator to provide a kind of a price tag on that, so that you're kind of aware of what the scope would cost, and then you can scale back from that or leave it as is if you're happy with that number.
Okay. But, and I've done some research on what you're talking about. I don't remember what you said the name of it, but that's kind of like this, there's like a state guideline, right? And it's sliding scale is what you're referring to. Okay.
Yeah, and my guess is if you're talking to architects that are part of, Chico Unified School District's pre-qualified group, they're all going to approach it the same way. It's just, I think the best way to do it is to break it up and get the schematics done. Usually schematics is about 10% of the overall fee. And my guess is a blended rate, a fee on this might be around 8%, 9% of total construction. So it's 10% of that. And the hard part is like Ty mentioned earlier, it's about, just programmatically, maybe 28-ish thousand square feet, something like that to meet all of your program needs. For full prevailing wage on a site like this that hasn't been developed previously, where you got to bring in utilities and kind of do everything from the ground up. I mean, DSA or not, it's probably $25 million, right? And so how do you get that, because I'm guessing you don't have $25 million set aside.
Unfortunately not. Yeah.
So, maybe you get your hands on 15 million or 17 million or something like that. Okay, now if that's the case, how do we look at modular concepts? How do we look at delivery methods? How do we look at all of these different things that enable you? How do we look at phasing potentially to where we can utilize those funds? That's where that schematic design really figures all of that out.
Okay. Anybody else have anything before we wrap up with this?
Should we mention that all the utilities are
We
on?
have John.
Well-
That should not be considered part of.
Well, he's talking, utilities are on the land, but you gotta still build them, bring them to the buildings, I think is what he's kind of.
Yeah, they're brought to the site. My guess is they're out in the street, or they might even be, at the property line, which is even better.
Yeah, they're
we're
at the property line, is
They're
where
at the
they're at,
property.
yeah.
Yeah, which is even better, hopefully meters are set and all of that sort of stuff. But, like I said, just the electrical service alone, right? All the switchgear, your transformers, some of these buildings may be sprinkled. So, you're talking about, your fire department, fire water, all of that sort of stuff. Those are pretty expensive pieces versus if you're working on a site where we're just modernizing it, right? We've already got that stuff in place. That's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I failed to mention when we were going through our concepts, I coordinated with Ross Simmons at North Star, who knows everything Marion Park.
Yeah.
Utility connections, and we've cited buildings appropriately. Now, of course, we're doing that in a vacuum. I mean, the real design's going to unfold as we are able to interact with you and staff and community members and, hopefully teachers and students.
Yeah, and originally this site was slated for residential. So, so that's gonna be a little different too.
We
Yeah.
have a lot of sewer laterals to choose from.
Yeah. Buck, did you have,
Yeah.
Nope. Okay, does anybody else have anything?
Just thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. That was great. I loved seeing those designs, Ty. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. It was our pleasure.
Okay, and I'll follow up with you guys tomorrow, hopefully. So,
Okay.
okay.
you, team.
Wonderful. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Very nice to meet you virtually and hope we have a chance to work together.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay,
Take care.
bye.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Trisha, you're.
I know, sorry. I just was,
Okay.
just for a second, thank you. So the next group is DLR, which they're all sitting in the waiting room right now. Any quick things? 6:45 was our time, so we have about 2 minutes before it's their time. Anybody have anything?
I know.
Yeah,
So I remember at our last meeting,
are you losing your voice?
yes,
Okay,
at the last meeting, was it 450 had said that they would look for bonds or grants or things
Yeah.
like that to be able to help us. And I didn't want to be presumptive with these guys that they would do too, but that was something that I was.
yeah, well, we can ask, I can follow up, and I think it's a good,
The way.
yeah, so I can put that on here. So looking for other sources of funding. So
Yes.
if you guys didn't hear that on Zoom, Nicole is asking to ask the firms if they will help facilitate looking for other sources of funding like grants and such.
Just want to say that that was really exciting to see somebody's first insight
Yeah.
into what we could do. It's
I know.
really, really exciting. And
Yeah.
I was very, very impressed with that whole presentation.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
And Dan Gonzalez from Merriam Park,
Highly
highly recommends Studio W. So,
Well, he recommends.
I can
he
see
recommends
why.
Ty. Yeah, he really thinks Ty is really vested in our community
And I like.
and is really going to make it happen. And he has worked with Ty on a personal level. And if you know Dan at all, he's pretty particular on how he wants things. And he had a design he took to Ty. Ty reworked it and brought it back. And Dan's like, I had to concede because his design was better than mine.
Nice, nice.
So,
I really liked how they gave us actual examples.
yeah, they
By
spent the
looking
time.
at us and spending the time to look
Yeah.
at us up online and saying, from what we gathered from you guys, and then gave us 3 different options.
Yeah.
Of single story and 2.
Double,
Those,
yeah.
I thought that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And also something to think about, because elevators are very costly and even the upkeep, you could always do ramps. A roundabout ramp.
Oh, to get to a second story, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, okay,
It's just
so
like
if
pop.
does anybody else have anything, or we'll let these guys in with the LR
Yep.
group? So Jesse is our main contact, and, we'll see what they have to think, so. And keep in mind, right, I talked to all these guys last week, so they did not have a ton of time to prep.
Yeah.
For this meeting, so, okay.
So, are you concerned about Julie wanting the manager job over Ty? I mean,
No, I think they're different, but,
different kinds of
Yeah.
managements, okay.
hey Jesse, hi, is Jeremy with you guys?
Jeremy is with us, yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to let people in and I'm not sure exactly where they belong, so, I just wanted to check. Hi, I'm Trisha, there's a group of us here, so nice to see you guys virtually. I appreciate you guys coming on short notice. So this is our facilities committee for Blue Oak Charter School. And so with us, we have parents, we have community members, and we have staff and admin that are kind of on this panel to kind of facilitate this crazy, exciting journey we're on building a new school. So that's kind of who we are. And I've kind of given them a little bit of an overview, Jesse, about the conversation that we've had. But I didn't steal your thunder too much, so.
No, we appreciate it. I mean, obviously we had a quick phone chat and a lot of emails back and forth over the last week. Exciting times for you all at Blue Oak. And in Chico in general, lots of stuff going well in the city. We're excited to meet with you guys tonight and then again next week. We did start to prepare, Trisha. I don't know how you would like to operate kind of the meeting tonight.
You should be able to share. You should have access if you want to share your screen. And you just let me know if I need to do something. So
yeah, I mean, we started preparing a presentation for next week. But we wanted to be kind of respective of the facility committee of, we can definitely show you a presentation or we can conversely talk and kind of understand what it is you guys are looking for and your hopes, your dreams, your visions.
I think maybe a little bit of both. We have about 25 minutes. So so I think if you have some slides that you think would be really useful to kind of show us, I think visual, we're all pretty visual people, I would say. So seeing stuff is great, like some other projects that you've done, and some examples, and then
Can we meet the other people too? And hear what they do on the project?
Absolutely. So why don't I do that? Why don't I share? What we do first is we would all love to meet all of you in the room. I know Trisha because
and the camera is kind of only showing on a few of us. So unfortunate, we need a wider lens camera evidence. So
I'm Vicky Wanacott. I'm chair of the Charter Council. So I'm actually not even a member of this committee, but I stick my nose in anyway.
She's very helpful. And a little bit further over here, you can't see is Renee. She's a parent. 2
parents over here.
And I can't even turn the camera because it's really far away. And then we also have Nicole over here. She's a parent. And then you've met me. And then over on this side, you have Kat. You wanna say anything?
Oh, I'm with facilities here at Blue Oak.
Oh, and then Buck is gonna make his way over to the camera. This is.
Hey, guys.
This
Nice to meet
is,
you. Facilities manager, Dick Coordinator.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
me and you are wearing the same outfit, but no, this is exciting. All right, I will share a screen. Let me try to do this. Share. And let's try to see if this works. Chris, you
It says it's coming up, so, yep, we see it.
does it show in presentation mode, Chris?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So let me minimize you all. I still want to see all of you, but I'm going to minimize. All right. So yeah, so we've started preparing this presentation, but again, this is rough. You know, we talked late last week and got this all set up. And please, as we go through this, any questions, concerns, comments, discussion that you guys want to do, we're happy to talk. So my name is Jesse Miller. I'm the K-12 education leader for DLR Group. With me tonight, I'll let them introduce themselves kind of in the order you see here.
So I'm Chris McGiff Brown. I'm the K-12 design leader and principal in the firm. I've been with DLR Group for 28 plus years, focusing my entire career on education design in K-12 facilities.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Cossack. I'm a senior associate and a project manager at DLR Group. I've been working with DLR and in K-12 specifically for 10 years now. And yeah, K-12, I really enjoyed the schools. It's mostly about the students. And so I think that's kind of why I got into it. So
I'm Kate Vega. I'm an education funding specialist with the DLR Group. My focus is on helping districts like yours try and find funding to help augment any funding that you already have.
I'm sure you are a popular lady, Kate.
We call her the Rainmaker.
Yeah.
And she's really a vital piece of what DLR Group brings to the table. Education is our #1 sector at our firm. I know, Trisha, you saw the website. It does look like we're a large firm, but I told you we break it down on a small scale, and we understand our K-12 schools and the dedicated customer service that they expect. And part of that is specialists like Kate. We also have educators on staff. We are a research informed design firm. But like Chris said, the team you see here has really dedicated, and the majority of our team that would work with you guys has dedicated their lives to education, knowing how critical and important what we do every day, what you guys do every day really matters.
We think so.
Yeah.
So we say that we're leaders in educational design. I mean, it is true. Again, we are a large firm, so we're not hiding the fact that we're a large firm, but you know, what we do, we think the benefits of all of that is really for you, right? Again, educators on staff, Kate on staff, any resource that you could possibly need, we can provide it, depending on how you're going through. And we've seen and done everything, right? We've done over 250 charter schools and independent schools nationwide. You see some of the photos here. We've even done a school next to a creek, right? Just like Little Chico Creek, you can see there. So really what this really means is we just offer first class kind of attention to you and understanding where education is and where it's going. So I want to play a quick video because we actually have a design ethos at DLR Group. So I will see if this shares.
Great.
Correct. So that's really kind of, oops, sorry.
That's okay.
That's kind of an intro to who we are, but I mean, from a firm perspective, our closest office, obviously Sacramento. We've got roughly a team of just under 30 people there. And we've done a lot of great projects in and around the area. So we can show you some of our project examples. We really enjoyed, Trisha, the video you sent of your teacher talking about what a Waldorf school is and what your kind of hopes and visions for it are. So we kind of wanted to show, I'll let Chris kind of take it from here.
Yeah, I was, probably when I was introducing myself, I should have said, gosh, I worked for Chico Unified School District for the past 16 years, starting at Chico High School with the new classroom building, Neil Dow Elementary School, Emma Wilson Elementary School in the area. So I've been up in Chico working with them and have a great relationship with that school district for quite some time. But kind of take you through some of the imagery and reviewing the video and some of the stuff that you sent. Student-centered environments. A lot of our schools are really about making sure that the students are achieving success while they are there, and providing the learning environments that give not only the teachers choices, but the students choices in how they learn, where they learn, and really having those flexible spaces within our classrooms and adjacent spaces for them to utilize. Nature. With this project here that we did, and also one that we've done in Mission Bay in San Francisco, and really providing a lot of nature-based learning environments outside of the classroom as an extension of those learning environments. And then art as a teaching tool, and providing students creative means, not only inside the classroom, but outside the classroom. And not only as the things that you see here, but also wall elements outside, areas for mobile furniture to bring art types of elements to the outdoors as well. And as you see with the flexible environments, when we talk about indoor, outdoor, providing ways to open up classrooms either to the outside or having that visual connection for natural daylight views to the outside, whether it be a forest or the creek. But you also see in a lot of this also bringing biophilic design inside, where it is about the natural woods and really taking a look at the craftsmanship of how you put things together. And looking at the next slide and talking about craftsmen, these are some of the projects within our portfolio that we've done that really bring in the detail of the woodworking and the idea of that naturalness within, and creating little fun spaces for students to be able to hang out and read and so forth as well. Next. Richland Elementary School. Again, the playfulness and the color. We wanted to show, a two-story classroom building as well. That you see here on the left with outdoor spaces. We talked about amphitheater and performance. And in the inside, you see the movement of one class to the other, with the walls opening up to one another and adding that transparency. So you can see learning happening from one space to another. So it is very active. And again, providing the choices for students where to go, be comfortable, learn, and teach.
And one thing as we wanted to show as we got into these examples was kind of showing you a stick-built example. We're going to show you a modularized component example and then a modular example. I know that you guys are deciding budget's going to play a big role in what we can ultimately provide for you with your wants and needs. So we wanted to show you a few different examples recently of things that have been built.
And that one that you just showed is a stick built, right?
This is stick built, yeah, and it's a multi-story because we know that you guys
Yeah.
have a small site, 2.4 acres, and a big wish list of outdoor spaces. So we probably are looking at something vertical. And most times with your size site, we are multi-story.
Yeah, which is what we're expecting.
Yeah, we're currently working on a 2-acre site on our Mission Bay project, where it's actually a 3-story elementary school. So we do have a lot of experience in multi-story elementary as well, and dealing with kindergarten and so forth on upper levels, and how we get the little guys up and down through the building. This is Westlake Charter School. This is a K-8 charter school that we did in Natomas. And one thing that we did here was separate the elementary and the middle school components, but in the middle provided more of a community aspect where you have the gym, you have the kitchen, you've got the administration. So all of kind of the shared components between the two schools are within that community component. And then we have a mall that connects the two schools together, where this school is really focused on the students being explorers of the world. And there's different art pieces, art rooms, and foreign language rooms that are nodes throughout the campus for the students to utilize. And you can see here that indoor-outdoor connection of a flex space for the classrooms, and then the idea of, you know, the performing arts and that indoor-outdoor stage for the students, whether it's off of that gymnasium piece or outside to the amphitheater.
That is so cool, where the back opens up to the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this project was built using modularized components. Chris, why don't you talk about the modularized components?
Yeah, so we designed this well, in modules, so that whether it could be stick built or modularize it. And so in order for us to save money during construction, the contractor actually built all the walls off-site, brought the walls and placed them on-site to save money for the project. It's not a modular type of building, as you can see, with just the form and the ideas of the open spaces on the inside. So in order to really save on costs, we were able to build components off-site to bring them in to be able to do that.
And so our last example, kind of the different ways you could look at this, and I know this is a high school, but it's our most recent 2-story modular building. So one of the things you'll notice with the modular construction, now this is a custom modular, we are able to, the modular companies nowadays are able to do some improvements to the outside, but they are limited, right? It's very boxy. You can do glazing. We did some fins, we did some canopies, and things like that. But on the inside, we really were able to start to open up and explore what you've seen kind of a lot now, is that, you know, collaboration spaces in the hallways with the folding walls and doors, classrooms that look just like you would see at any you know, high school new design stick built CTE lab, right? So there are some great things you can do with modular buildings nowadays, where you kind of get kind of where you get limited, and we're going to talk more about pros and cons in a little bit, is in the exterior and the structural system, because they're delivered on trailers and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna go over, I know Trisha, you had asked us to kind of take a look at like what timelines look like, and so kind of our project manager Jeremy is gonna take it from here, if there's no questions.
Yeah, that's great.
Sure thing. So nice to meet you all. So depending on the size and the complexity of the project, there's 2 ways that we can go about the schedule. First part here is going to be your typical phasing of the construction document. So we have all the design phases. We go through plan review through the state. We do our typical bidding negotiation. Then we get our final NCP through construction. And at the very end of the project, we go through closeout and certification. So roughly each one of the design phases here is going to be between 2 and 3 months, give or take. Once we get into DSA, that's probably our only wild card, but what we've seen typically, you're going to get between 3 to 4 months. Once you do that, you get your fact check comments, and then once you're approved and you get your stamp, you can go out to bidding, and that's typically what we see around 2 to 3 months. And a project this size, we're looking about 18 months, depending on phasing and increments. You can go to-
For build after you get approval. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can go out to bid as soon as you get your DSA stamp on there.
Yeah, I mean, we could, and again, this is gonna be a little bit of a fast track approach. And you're gonna see, and Jeremy can explain this, but you actually can go out to bid a little bit before you get your DSA approval. We don't like to do it too far in advance because then you open yourself up to potential change orders or carrying a contingency. But Jeremy, why don't you walk them through a potential cited app, kind of if this is a modular approach, and you can see kind of the time savings. So from this one, we were looking at an August 2027 opening, but here's a different option.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. So this approach that we're seeing now is where we split up the project into different phases or increments, and we do that for plan submittal to DSA. So the great thing about that is, like Jesse said, we can get, typically we see increment 1, which maybe you have some demolitions, we have rough grading, and we have some of your site utilities. Well, that's great. We're doing that now. And while that's being done in construction, we're actually going through the design process and DSA while the buildings are get done. So by the time increment 1 is done and they have the site ready, you'll be at a DSA ready to build those buildings rather than waiting for the entire project to be completed at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, and a step further than that, if there's different phasing, you can even go up to 3 increments. So maybe you can start on that second increment and you have that third increment, which can be a different building or modernizations on the site. So this is definitely something that we've seen more and more of.
So question for you, Jeremy, Jesse, is as of right now, we don't have to go through DSA because we're a charter school, even though we're getting public funds. Now, from what I hear is there is benefits to going through DSA because it's maybe more streamlined than your local jurisdiction through the city. What is your guys' perspective on that?
I can
You've worked in Chico before. Have you dealt with the city?
We have. Cities always can be wild card. Like DSA is kind of
Standard.
what's the saying? The devil you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then and then what it does is, so the benefits, like, and this is something we would go through with you all and we could make those determinations. There's some benefits in the future for you all if you do go through the DSA process versus the city. One, now your facility could become, if you ever needed to sell and you rebuild or you grow and you need to get rid of this and give it back to Chico Unified or something, now it's a facility ready for public school kids, right, through the Field Act. It does come with a higher importance factor with it, and the codes are different versus city standards. Kate, maybe you could kind of jump in here and talk about the funding and the submittals.
Right. So and I'm not sure how familiar you are with the state funding program.
Not
In
really.
Yeah, in California, it's complicated, as you can imagine. Right now, hopefully, you've seen on your you got your ballot in the mail. There's something called Proposition 2 on there that we all voted yes for. When Prop 2 passes in November, it brings in $600 million for charter schools to potentially access funding. It would be, since you're partnered with Chico, they would submit, not probably, they would submit the application. Then they have a point system. And if you get preliminary apportionment through that system, then you would then have to follow basically public school rules. So you
Yeah.
would have to get
Yeah.
DSA approval, you would have to get CDE approval. Most of their standards are pretty complementary to what you would probably see anyways, like 960 square foot regular classrooms, and for like a preschool or TK or kindergarten classrooms, those are 1350 inclusive storage spaces, and the bathroom included within the classroom space. So if that is an option or something that you would be interested in exploring, then DSA is definitely the way that you would go to get that funding.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So
Yeah, so we prepared the schedules just kind of, again,
Yeah.
not knowing what ways you guys want to go, but like just kind of that typical way, because I know, Trisha, when we talked, obviously a portion of the funds are coming from the Chico Unified's bond that's on the ballot, but there was additional funding needed, and we were thinking maybe there's other ways, right?
yeah, that's great. So I know we just have a few more minutes.
Yep.
So I don't know if there's anything that you really want to cover there, but I would love to hear more about funding. So and cost and all that. So yes, I love this slide. Okay. Oh my gosh.
Do you want to do funding first,
Yeah.
Kate?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
whatever you guys prefer.
So I've been doing funding for a long time. I'm currently working with 2 charter schools, one that's gotten preliminary funding already through the state system, and we're working through the CDE process right now, and one that has decided that they want to submit once Proposition 2 passes. Again, it's a point system, so there's some certain criteria. You're up against some other charter schools. Whoever submits during that round, it's usually a month window. Usually May to June is typically the window, and you submit. There's an application you have to submit. You have to show a copy of your current approved charter petition. You would submit a narrative essentially describing your project, a verification of your nonprofit status, and a few other things. It's not a very big application that you would submit. Then you would be up against whatever charters have applied in the state of California. If you get the funding, then that's when the work really starts. So then we work with the architects and pull together the design. We get through DSA, we work with CDE. CDEs mostly, their whole role, it's different than DSA's. Their role is looking at the safety of the campus and making sure that there's something called Title V, and Title V is really the guidelines that CDE follows. Looking at sight lines, safety of students, that when a child is being dropped off at the campus, that they're not crossing over drop off lanes, some things like that. And then the other thing that we could explore that's outside of these things are federal funding, maybe for solar, if that's something that you're looking at doing on your campus. So there's other avenues outside of the state funding system if that's not something that you're looking at. But that basically my whole role is to become integrated with your staff to try and figure out if there's funding available for you. And then not just helping, but submitting the paperwork, filling out the paperwork, and working with you to get all of that put together.
Love it.
Yeah. Very
So
nice.
we could go back a slide, but I know we're short on time, and we'd love to hear from you guys.
Well, so cost is another thing, and we can do that
Yeah.
next week. We can kind of go through that in more detail, like, what are your costs, how how you guys help us project manage that, kind of staying on track as far as budget and time frame. So those are kind of our other big things. Any other,
We just glimpsed that last page.
what was it?
Just glimpsed that last.
Oh, can you just pull up the last page? Just
Yeah.
At least we can just see that on a high level, Jesse.
I can. Well, we actually had 2 slides left.
Okay. We have a few minutes.
Yeah,
You guys have any other specific questions before we do that? Anybody?
I don't.
Oh, they're pretty much good.
Okay.
And it's hard to see when you're on a little screen.
Get a bigger screen.
See, so that's not the slide I want to get to, but hold on a second. So Jeremy, why don't you go over this was kind of more of a pricing of modular versus stick build.
Okay.
Yeah, so what we're seeing now, obviously there's been significant escalation over the last few years, but right now what we're seeing throughout our offices is about 950 square foot. That can go up or down depending on, the price points of the project itself. And so when we're talking about numbers, we typically say one classroom is typically $1 million. Okay. And this is strictly going to be project costs, not site costs, because site costs, you're still going to have that with modular and new construction stick built. So the modular projects that we've been seeing have been a little lower, and those have been hovering between 600 and 650 on some recent projects. Again, just to clarify, those are full inclusive costs with the exception of the site work that's not shown. So that's going to include the insurance, the GCs, potential escalation, overhead and profit, and all those other numbers that kind of just get mushed together. So if we move on to pros and cons, pros, we always like to hear that it's cost savings and that there's time savings. Cost savings, potentially, time saving, also how you look at it. And I say that because, you can get everything built in a factory, but since you're dealing with a third party, that can cause delays getting to the job site. So we've seen that a few times where the site might be ready, but the modular company is not ready to deliver. Another pro is that it's all inclusive. It has your mechanical, your electrical, and your plumbing. One of the cons with that is that it does not include your low voltage. So anything that's going to be used with data, your fire alarm, security, anything that you're using for teaching, that's going to be in addition. So you're still going to have some contractors that come in and install these items. As Jesse mentioned early on, there's modular buildings that can be modified, but there's also standalone buildings that can be PC approved. And that actually will help us, our process going through DSA or however we want to do the plan review. So going with cons, I know Jesse mentioned this as well, is we have limited design and finishes. Everything is built on structural bays. And so we're really just limited to finishes and moving some walls around. But once you start doing that, fees and project costs go up from there. I already discussed scheduling delays. Another really important factor to this is, yes, they're modular, but when they come out there, if they're not built perfectly right, it's really hard to modify these things in the field. So whereas your stick built, you can modify the studs, modify the wood headers and everything like that. So construction tolerances are pretty key. I just mentioned the field installation. So when you get out there, you're still going to have to do your interior finishes, your plaster, any of your fascia trim. And most importantly, the cons is we have a third-party modular company that we're dealing with, and they also have a third-party inspection company. So those are a few additional fees that we typically would not see with new construction and stick built.
Okay.
Then just skipping real quick to our last one. I know you wanted to talk about fees.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that will be me as well. So there's a couple ways we can approach it. Typically, if our scope is very clearly defined and our program is very clearly defined, we can use a fixed fee. However, from what we typically see is most of our clients lean more towards the sliding scale. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that from OPSC.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so there's a scale, right? Every certain amount, there's a percentage. New construction is going to be a different cost for modernization. So that's typically what we see, but there's also, if we want to do modular, if there's site adapts, there's different percentages that we can take away from those fees. So we're willing to work with you. I mean, obviously we want to have this be communication and collaborative, but those are typically what we see on projects. So.
Okay, and we could do an initial design, conceptual design, right, as a first step, and then if that all goes well, then we move forward with kind of like the project that.
Yes, so I've seen that before where some districts, they do like a pre-schematic. It's almost like a test to fit. Well, they'll have a not to exceed, and we'll actually do a test to fit, like hey, does your program actually work on the site? Do you
Yeah.
have enough classrooms and stuff like that?
And then we can go out, we can even maybe get some preliminary cost, right? Because right now we're like chasing the chicken or the egg over and over. So I feel
Yeah,
like
we have a client, Christian Brothers High School, if you're familiar with that, in Sacramento. We're doing a design build project with them. They hire us at every phase because they don't know if they have the money to go to the next phase, right?
Yeah.
And I don't recommend that. Chris knows I don't like that, but but we definitely have done that. But yeah,
Well,
we're gonna-
our Chico contracts are very similar to where we're doing the pre-design conceptual phase and then the rest of it.
Okay.
Yeah, we look at it as more of a partnership, Trisha. I mean, you're essentially, it's whether it's long-term, short-term marriage. I mean, it's going to be a few years of you working with the team, right? And so we want you guys to feel comfortable with us. We're going to feel comfortable with you and really just partner with you.
Okay, perfect. Does anybody have any last questions before we move on?
Yes.
We covered these? No,
Oh,
well, maybe next time because we're,
okay.
yeah, okay.
We're out of time.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
And I'll be in touch. I'll try to reach back out to you guys tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank-
awesome. Because if there's anything you want to see differently, let us know for next week. But pleasure meeting all of you. And we look forward to the next step.
Okay, it was nice to meet you all. Have a good night.
you.
Nice to meet you. Bye.
All right. Done.
Yes. Okay.
This is hard.
I know.
We're awesome.
Yes. Okay, anybody else have anything before we so Kevin is with RGA, they're a local firm, they're gonna be much smaller, so it's just him. And like I literally talked to him on yesterday, Monday, so
RG.
it's gonna, okay,
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
so,
Thank you guys. I gotta get up early.
okay,
All right, Kim.
okay.
Thanks for being here.
No, thank you.
So I guess before you leave really fast, because I don't know if we're gonna need to make a motion to.
Oh, then I'll just wait.
We'll send everybody to the board for,
Yeah, I mean,
to look at, you
it's
know,
good. Next one's anything like the last two. Yeah.
so we can make that motion now?
Yes.
Okay, so does somebody want to make a motion, just to have the board review all three of these architects?
I'll make a motion
Okay,
to have the board review all three of the architects that we viewed today.
And I second it.
okay. Anybody opposed to that?
No.
Okay, so I'm just gonna say everybody said aye then, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to have that in case we need it, so,
Oh, that's good.
okay. Okay, so I'm gonna let Kevin in.
All right,
Jen-
thank you all.
Jen, do you have any comments before I go and let Kevin in? Jim?
I really like that they had fun with our sound.
That
Wasn't that awesome?
the best.
That was great.
We want one of those, no matter who.
Okay, that's all good.
Hey,
Okay. See you.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Hi,
All right.
I can't hear you yet.
How about there?
Now I can hear you.
Cool.
You
How we
look
doing?
just like your picture on the website.
I think I might be wearing the same shirt.
So thank you for coming so late on a Tuesday night.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, so I'm Trisha, so there's a
Yes.
few of us here. And so we are made up of some parents and community members from our charter council. And then we have our facilities
Facility
manager, safety guy, the guy that runs the building, make sure the building's
Awesome.
running. So
He's okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
He's here.
How many
Uh,
people are in the room right now? I can only see 3, but
I
we've got-
know, there's 5 of us. The camera is not
cool.
quite big enough. So something we need in our new school is a wide lens camera for meetings.
Yes, absolutely.
This is Buck,
Hi.
yeah.
Hi, maintenance guy. Is that you?
Yes.
Good to see you.
So I appreciate you coming last minute. I know we just spoke yesterday and I let them
No
know
problem.
that it was super last minute, so.
That's what we do. Not a problem.
Yeah, so so yeah, well, you can take it away and you just let me know if you need anything
Cool.
from me and tell us a little bit about you and.
I would love to.
Yeah,
I put together a little PowerPoint here just to show you some stuff. And if we have enough time, I don't know how much time you want to devote to me yakking at you, but I have some pretty pictures hopefully to share at the end that might give us a good glimpse of some of our experience.
perfect.
Let me see if I can get the screen going here.
Yeah, so RGA is Chico. They're a Chico firm. Yeah,
That's right.
Okay.
Can you see what I see?
I see it.
Cool. I don't know how many of you in the room I know. Probably a couple. I think I recognize a couple familiar faces here, but my name's Kevin. I'm one of the owners here at RGA. RGA is local, like you said, and we're an architecture and engineering firm. We've been around for going on 25 years now, and I've been at the firm for over 15. So,
He was at our Oaken Lands, right?
what's that?
You are at Oaken Lands? Is that
Yeah,
moment? He was at our music festival.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
funny. I think I recognize some of your faces from there. My wife and I came down because lo and behold was the band that played at our wedding.
Yeah,
So,
I remember that. Yeah. Yeah.
we're kind of their unofficial groupies. So this presentation isn't that long, and feel free to interrupt me anytime if you guys want to have questions or talk about things informally. Happy to do whatever makes sense for all of us. But I just want to introduce RGA a little bit. As I mentioned, we've been around for about 25 years. We do architecture and engineering, and we have a staff of about 15 people. What that means for us is that our practice is very local based. The people that work in our firm here grew up in Chico, or they live in the surrounding areas, including Oroville or Gridley. A couple people were up in Paradise until recently. But what that means for us is that we have the ability to be really responsive to local projects here in Chico. When we take on projects such as yours, we have a dedicated team that's devoted to those projects. And our staff of 15 would have probably about 3 to 4 people working on your project at any given phase during the whole project life. And what that means for us is that we like to build relationships. We understand that the community that we live in is the community that we work in. And oftentimes the charter schools that we do are places where our friends' kids go to school, or some of them, even our own staff members have kiddos that go to charter schools in the local area. So we value relationships. We want to do work that we're proud of, and work that you're proud of, and hopefully we'll both be around for a long time. What that also means, since we're local, is that we have low overhead costs. We're not a lot of travel involved for us. We also have lower cost of doing business than some other firms that might be from Sacramento or Redding. And what that means for you is that there's a high value per dollar spent for your project costs. Another way of saying it is you get more bang for your buck. And not only that, RGA has been around for a long time, like I keep saying, but we have people that have worked here in the project in the firm for their entire careers. And we pride ourselves in training our staff and building our employees and keeping them for as long as we possibly can. Of course, people come and people go, but the people that would work on your project have all been here in the firm for over 5 years, most of them for over 9 years. So we've been through this before, and we have a cohesive project team inside the office. Building information modeling is a term that I'll throw around here. It's BIM. You might have heard it before. The software is called Revit. It's a modeling software for building buildings virtually. We are the leaders in that software and technology here in our local area. What that means for you is that the project is not just pretty lines on a piece of paper. It's not just 2D. We build everything in 3D. And the 3D model that we build has a lot of technology in it and a lot of intelligence in it. And it gives us a lot of tools that we can help leverage throughout the project, whether it's using the 3D model that we build to help with cost estimating and takeoffs, or doing fun things like producing photorealistic renderings or video animations of the project. We know that sometimes it's hard to read 2D plans and really truly understand what a space will look and feel like. So we have that 3D technology to help pull that information from the model and have us walk through the building, do a virtual reality walkthrough. And again, we are the leaders in the local area for that type of technology. Of course, you already know the Blue Oak relationship from way back when I did your original plans. Are you in the building in East Avenue right now?
Yeah.
Cool.
So I kind of briefly had told them that, so they
Cool.
weren't, yeah.
And then, yeah, we did the expansion or the remodel, I suppose it was for you. But I hope I don't step on any toes when I bring this part up here. But does the phrase Turner Impact Capital or Tom Belinsky mean much to anybody?
Turner, we talked
Okay.
to 4 years ago, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were
Four.
involved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good. Okay. So Tom Belinsky and Tom works for Turner Impact Capital or Turner, and him and I did a chief charter school over on East Avenue after they were dislocated or located from Paradise after the Camp Fire. And Tom and I had a good relationship. We did a couple charter schools together, and he reached out to me, and we provided some information for, gosh, 2 or 3 different product iterations for you around town. I think there was a fitness gym over by Home Depot.
Yeah.
There was a piece of land up on 32, which we pointed out had some environmental concerns on it, I think.
Yep.
There was one other one. Were you looking at it?
It's all ringing a bell.
Okay, cool. Just to say, we know a little about Blue Oak. Plus, y'all make some mean tacos and like good music, so we appreciate that too. We have done a lot of charter schools in the local area. We've also designed complete school campuses in the local area. And we've completed a lot of projects that are really similar in size to what I think you're talking about for your site. And all that is to say that here in our office and both with the consultants that we might consider working on your project, we've developed an integrated project team that really has been through this whole process before. So what does that mean for you? The RGA approach, just to summarize it here, is the team. We could talk about the process, and then ultimately, what are the results for you? This is the last kind of intro slide, I promise. We'll get to some more fun stuff after this. Again, we talked about how local we are. Our team is experienced. We are qualified. We have 3 licensed engineers on staff and 2 licensed architects on staff. And for us, the proposal on these types of discussions like we're having right here, it's just the start. We love what we do, and we really hope that by the time we're at the end of the project, we can look back and all have fond memories of the times we spent together and have a project and a building and a campus that serves you for many years to come. And for us, that happens the whole way throughout the process with flexibility and responsiveness. We're not too large to make nimble and quick changes. We can react to input both from you as the owner, but we also really like to work with the users, the people that will actually occupy the space once you're done. And we've been through that process before. So, what do community meetings look like with parents, for example? How do we facilitate conversations with users and really get good information out of them that helps inform our design process? Those are all things that we've been through in the past, and we have a good methodology for how we like to go about those. And ultimately, our process is about giving timely response and timely approvals back to you, not only during the design process, but also in the approvals process with the local jurisdiction. We've been around for decades, and we have really good relationships with the city of Chico, both on the entitlements process, which is the upfront stuff. Maybe it's zoning, maybe we have a preliminary meeting with the planning department, something like that. But also with the building department when it's time to actually get you a building permit for your project. We have quarterly meetings with each of the with the department heads throughout the entire building department, planning department, public works, engineering staff at the city of Chico. We also have semi-regular meetings with the city manager at the city of Chico. So our connections go deep and wide throughout the city of Chico. And ultimately, what we hope that means for you is that our communication throughout the project is what you need. We're here to provide a service to you ultimately, and we want to make sure that we're responsive to your needs. We also have very rigorous quality control and assurance methods throughout our office. So by the time our project, site plan design might be presented to you, it's been reviewed at least 2 times by other people in the office. So you really get that breadth of knowledge from all the staff members that we have here. And we'll talk about this here in a little bit. Like I said, I had some fun, pretty pictures to show in front of you, but what we hope that we can communicate to you today is that we have a legacy of proven success in our local community.
Nice.
These guys, any questions?
Not yet. Yeah.
Okay. So these guys.
Yes, but I'm making notes, so you can keep going.
Okay, cool. I promise we'll get to the fun stuff here in a second. Our RGA is made up of 5 owners here. We are employee owned, so along with myself, we have Matt and Don. They're our principals and founders. We also have Clint, who's another engineer with me, and Bob, who's another engineer. So between the 5 of us, RGA is an employee owned company, and we're proud of that. Like I said, we're going 24, almost 25 years in business. I thought it might be helpful to think about how the project team might be organized for your project. And this is all just hypothetical. We can do all of this, we can do some of this, none of this. It's kind of all up in the air. But to start with, the idea is that I would be your single point of contact for the project. We think that's important because when it comes time to make a phone call or have a project meeting and carry that knowledge from beginning to end, I would be the person that would be doing that with you. But I'd be also supported by our entire RGA design team. So I mentioned that we do architecture and structure in-house. We're an integrated design team in that way. We also do interior design in-house. We also have a really great visualization and renderings and graphics department here. We also have, like I mentioned, good entitlement connections with the city of Chico. And then lastly, we would hope to stick with you until the very end of the project when it's all completed and people are ready to move in. That last phase we call the construction administration phase. And we pride ourselves on the service that we can provide in that phase because we're not looking to just hand the contractor a set of plans and say, good luck, we'll see you later. Instead, we do offer a service where we stick through to the very end and ultimately help ensure that the project that we designed is a project that you paid for and the contractor built. So project closeout, document management, all the technical parts of construction administration, we would be happy to help you with. And then last but not least, it takes a village. And for the things that we don't have in-house here at RGA, we have a team of consultants in the local area that we would be happy to put together for you. We can do all or none of it. I think, Tricia, you and I were talking about the opportunities for perhaps partnering with a local contractor. So I'll use that example. If you did decide that there was a local contractor that you felt really strongly about, and they were going to provide cost estimating services for you, we wouldn't have to provide that for you. But if we do, we have a bunch of different relationships that we would rely on to help bring the cost estimating piece to the project. And then these are some other examples, electrical and mechanical design, of course, the civil engineer for the project, landscape architect. Our proposal would be to do one of 2 things. We can either build the team that we feel the best about, or we could provide you with proposals from 3 of each of them and let you pick and choose. And we can have an open discussion about that, open book conversation about who the consultants might be.
Okay.
All right. How about some fun pictures?
Yes.
Cool. In a past life, before I came back to Chico, I did my graduate degree work down in Southern California. I lived in Orange County for a number of years, and I got to work for a company called LPA Design Studios. We did this project, which is my favorite charter school I've ever done. Even though I've done a lot since then, I still have to keep going back to this one. This is the Environmental Nature Center in Newport Beach, and I feel kind of guilty sharing this with you because this is by far the most expensive charter school that I've ever done. It is also the coolest charter school I've ever done. But what's important for me is the way that their curriculum informed the way that we designed that building. I am a product of the charter school system myself. Since 2nd grade all the way through high school, I was a charter school student. I did independent study, went to Chico Country Day, Camptonville Academy. I had to go to Oakdale because it was the only high school independent study charter school program that they had at the time. But I also lived up in Cottonwood and Redding for a number of years and went to Chrysalis up there. Anybody familiar with Chrysalis?
I'm not.
So Chrysalis is really similar to Environment and Nature Center, like this one in Newport Beach. The campus is up in Redding. It's right in Turtle Bay, right next to the Paul Bunyan camp. That's where I grew up going to school for about 4 or 5 years. And our curriculum involved going out for nature walks along the Arboretum. Going camping was our field trips for PE. So that connection to the outdoors is something that I've grown up with from a very young age. Even to this day, my wife and I go and hike hundreds of miles on the Pacific Coast Trail every summer, and it's something that's important to us. And for this project, it was really fun because we got to take that connection to nature and put it into physical built form. Now I'll dial it back a little bit and show you some of the other projects that probably aren't as exciting, but are very real and very cost-conscious projects. This is Stream Charter School up in Oroville. It is a pre-engineered metal building. It was probably the cheapest charter school that we've had the privilege of designing. But it created some great spaces for the students to actually do what they need to do. You know, not everybody needs a really flashy environmental nature center preschool. Instead, this project was built on a budget. We did a large gymnasium, which is also a pre-engineered metal building. But at the end of the day, it provided a school and a campus for those who needed it. Slater & Son Contractors built this one. We also had the privilege of working with the folks over at Core Butte Charter School. This was a number of years ago, but this was their elementary resource center, which is on the neighborhood church campus. Again, it's a pre-engineered metal building. It was actually an addition to an old pre-engineered metal building that we helped remodel, so it was technically complicated. But again, in the end, it ended up with some great science classrooms, for example. We even found a way to try and do connection to nature on a budget. This was a roll-up glass door that helped connect that classroom out to their courtyard area. And then, of course, the interiors of the buildings were very simple, but again, we provided a school on a budget and did what we had to do. I won't let this video play all the way through, but this is some work that we did for Golden Eagle Charter School up in Shasta County. And we had to produce what was called a guaranteed max project document set, which meant we took the design to about what you see here, along with a set of documents that was given to a contractor. And the contractor had to go through and give the owners of the project a guaranteed maximum price to build that project. That was the project delivery method that they had picked for this project. But what we found is when we got to the end of the GMAX set and the contractor gave them a price, they didn't really know what they were getting. So what we did is we put together a series of animations and actually virtual reality walkthroughs for this project, which showed every space throughout the whole thing. And it helped communicate to the end users a little bit more about what the lines on paper meant. This one's still in use permit phase. They actually changed site. We helped with entitlements. We've designed the site 2 different times. We've value engineered this building a couple times. So this one's not built quite yet, but it's still in the works. So this was a fun one. And then last but not least, this was Phoenix Charter School up in Reading. Ultimately, there was an issue with a bond funding. Slater & Son was involved with this along with, is it Patricia? She was the leader up there at Phoenix Charter School. They had some issues with the bond funding. They couldn't get the funds secured, so this project kind of went by the wayside. But again, this was another pre-engineered metal building. This is a portico share out up front where folks might be able to do drop-off or pickup in front of the school. It was another cost-conscious school, and it came in on budget. It just had issues with the bond funding. And then I thought I'd share some one-off projects with you that I think are relevant. So real quickly, we'll run through these. This might not look familiar, but there was an apartment complex that was built recently on the corner of Humboldt and Forest over near the CVS and Great Harvest Bread. This was the project that was supposed to be built there. And again, it ran into funding issues. But the reason I show it to you is because it's right next to Little Chico Creek. And this project was designed from beginning all the way through permit. The owner of the project had a building permit in hand. And the reason I say that is because we worked really hard with the civil engineer to be conscious of the creek because it was right next to it. It's to the left in this picture behind the whole apartment complex. There are rules that will make us build a certain distance away from the top bank of that creek. Also, it is in all of our best interest to try and design the project so that it drains internally. The goal would be zero discharge to the creek. Because if we do, that involves other folks like the Army Corps of Engineers and the California Water Resources Control Board. And those are not 2 people that I enjoy doing business with. So if we did have the opportunity to bring a civil engineer to the project team with us, the goal would be to either discharge to whatever storm drainage facilities might be in the area for the city, or drain internally and have either retention, detention, or underground basins to help treat that stormwater instead of discharging it to the creek, thereby saving us all a lot of money and time. I mentioned it to Trish on the phone the other day, but this is one of the buildings that's pretty close to you across the parking lot there in Merriam Park. Merriam Park is one of those projects where people like it or they don't. And I can tell you that I both like it and I don't like it. But we, for better or for worse, have done all of the buildings at Merriam Park except for two. We've worked with Dan for years. We even did his stuff out at Fifth Sun Clothing, and have done projects with him around town before. We are not the creative vision behind Miriam Park. We are not the ones that have put together the whole master plan concept and turned it into what Dan has turned it into today. But we did do the architecture. And there's a number of buildings in that local area nearby you that are projects that we've done. Matter of fact, everything on your side over there near Bruce, that's all us. I'll take a step back from that for a moment, though, to share with you this project. I wish I could share a bunch more photos with you, but I want to be conscious of your time. This is the rec patio out in front of the recreation center for Chico State. I completed this project recently, and it was basically just a big outdoor living area landscape project. There's 4 separate rooms. You can kind of see it way in the back there, but there's an outdoor fireplace. There's a water fountain behind where this picture is taken. And this was the Zen garden. We brought in a lot of granite boulders and local native plants in collaboration with the local Native American representatives, and landscaped this thing so it felt like you were connected to nature. So this outdoor area serves the student population in the recreation center, some of their therapy support services, and some of their yoga classes and meditation sessions are held in this garden. And then I'll switch back to Miriam Park. This is kind of a scatter shot of projects, so forgive me for being a little all over the place here. But of course, you know, Farmers Brewing, this is just down the way from you. This was another project just to show you some of the different styles in Miriam Park that we completed recently. This is a surgery center that has recently changed ownership. But in any case, the project that I think I figured out was closest to you is the North Valley Eye Care Center right there.
It's beautiful, it's right.
And then I'll describe to you the last project, but I'm not technically allowed to share it with you because it's under a non-disclosure agreement of sorts. But there is an apartment complex that was designed just to the west of the property that you've all been looking at. And that project was designed by my office. So your neighbors could be apartment complexes, and we know quite a bit about that neighborhood. So that knowledge is back there, and hopefully someday soon we can share that if the non-disclosure agreement kind of goes public. So that's all I had for you, and I would love to keep talking and answer any questions that you have.
That's great. It was great. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Good.
You guys want me to go with my?
Yeah,
Okay.
same questions.
Okay. So one thing that is crucial for us is funding, obviously. So we talked a little bit about the Measure K and the Measure C.
Yeah.
So, but there's going to be a gap there. More than likely, there's going to be a gap. So is there anybody that you guys work with on a consulting or anybody in your firm? And I know schools aren't your, you know, the soul of your business, but anything,
That is true.
yeah, that you have from a funding consultant that can help us with different fundings that would be available for schools?
We do, yeah. So over the years of doing charter schools, we've developed some pretty good relationships, and they range from people who help on the design and construction side of things, all the way to people who are involved in policy. And you know, just off the top of my head, some people that we would consider bringing to the project team if it was a good fit for your needs. Might be some folks who are involved on the advocacy side from the California Charter Schools Association. We have good relationships with them, and some of those folks have some really smart things to say about charter school. Do you do work with them already by chance?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think, yeah, our administrator attends some of that, so.
Awesome. I give full credit to Casey Taylor, who's a good colleague and friend of ours and client from Achieve Charter School, but she helped make those connections over the years. So they've been hugely instrumental. The second person that I would recommend that we involve in the discussions at some point is a gal named Courtney, and Courtney works with they changed their name recently. It's the nonprofit arm of Chico State. It's the Research Foundation, and I think they go by a different name now. But basically, they exist to help with economic development in the local region. The reason I bring that up is when we were doing a chief charter school over on East Avenue after the campfire, we needed to have a traffic study done. The city was pushing back on the traffic implications for introducing a charter school behind a church, and rightfully so. Courtney was really helpful in putting us in touch with a traffic study engineer who could do it on time and on budget. And since then, I'm currently working on a K through 12 campus for Achieve up in Paradise. It's likely going to be a 14 or $15 million project, and they needed to be pretty sure about the numbers that we were putting together. So Casey actually reached back out to Courtney, and she put together some projections for them. And it was done in concert with her economist and her economic forecaster that she has on part of their team there at the, I think they call it the Collective now. Again, this is the Chico State Research Foundation. Their team put together a full student analysis and projection for student levels all the way through, oh gosh, I think they went 10 years into the future. And that analysis was the basis of the program that I wrote for the K through 12 campus up in Paradise. It included number of students, number of staff, and it was based on trends that they thought were real and actually trying to predict the future, not just saying, I think we want to be double in about 6 years.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
those folks were really helpful.
That's great.
Aside from that, the last person that I mentioned to you, Tricia, but I'll say it again, is there's a local construction project manager here in Chico who has made a name for themselves doing charter schools, and they've done a bunch of them. Trover Construction Project Management is the firm. Nick Trover is the fella and his staff.
And I actually met with him today.
Oh, cool. Great. Well, then I won't say too much about him, but Nick knows a lot, and he's been through this before too. So
Yeah, I called him after we spoke yesterday, and
cool.
so we can, so that I appreciate that. So
Of course.
what,
Good question. Keep them coming.
yeah, so what about cost from like so RGA's cost? So from what I understand, it seems like maybe the avenue we need to go is there's one like phase one with an architect, right? Conceptual design. Here's kind of a design, and then we kind of get a cost associated with that. And then from there, then we say, okay, we can do this, and then we go right from there.
Right.
Okay.
Right on. You got it. Yeah.
So and that's broken up into 2 different fees structures.
Yeah. What we could do is provide a proposal to you, which would include our upfront costs for what we might call a site feasibility study. That basically takes you from here to a site plan. We probably need to prepare a program as well, which is basically a fancy spreadsheet that goes through and lists out all the things that you want in the school, the areas that are associated with them, and helps us understand the areas required for the whole project build out. So a site plan, a program, and then I would probably recommend that we do a schematic floor plan of sorts. We have good success with doing what we call bubble diagrams. It's not walls and doors and windows and everything that's really complicated. It's this is about this size and it goes here, and this is about this size and it goes here. It helps us understand spatial relationships and adjacencies in the campus and the school without spending a ton of money for you. So those 3, I think, would make up the site feasibility study, and would be enough to, depending on how we structure the deal, we could involve the services of a cost estimating consultant that we have a good relationship with. Just for reference, the picks that I would probably consider using are Cumming Group. Cumming Group is out of Sacramento, but Ryan is one of the principals there, and he's a Chico State graduate, a Chico local, born and raised. So he's got good connections back here to the Chico area and cares about doing projects. So those might be one we could consider. That site feasibility study is something that we would work with them on, and that's what they would base probably their first estimates for construction costs on.
Okay. Anybody else? Those are the 2 questions, right? I didn't miss anything.
I don't think so. No, sounds good.
Did he think that we could make do with a single floor plan design? Or would his suggestion be more of a 2-story?
I don't know. She's seen her voice, so I don't know if you can hear her or not. So
I did. No, you're good. I got it.
I don't know how much time I've only given him less than 24 hours. So.
Thank you. I appreciate that thought. Yes. To be honest, I thought that your site was a little smaller than it actually is. We've seen the master plan for Miriam Park many, many times, and it always seems to change. I think years ago, we helped design a series of office buildings that were supposed to go on this property. So we have some background and historical information or knowledge about it. I also understand that it was supposed to be residential at some point.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going through the same process right now with the Chief Charter School in Paradise. And we started out trying our best to get it to be a one-story building because it's the most cost-effective way to build it, right? Where we're currently at right now with that project is that it is going to be a two-story building. There are some efficiencies with two-story buildings that make it not that bad. There are some really expensive items that we will have to consider, including an elevator, for example. But the project up in Paradise right now that I'm doing for Achieve is a partnership with Slater and Son. And what they've been helping us understand and work through with Achieve is actually that they're able to build more square footage for less cost if they go two-story. But by the time they factor in the infrastructure improvements for the building footprint, including foundations and footings, and then just some of the efficiencies that you get by taking that area that could have been, I'll go like this, side by side and stacking it on top of each other, you actually reduce costs in some areas. So there's an opportunity to be efficient to the point where two-story really is not that big of a deal.
Okay.
And my gut feeling tells me that you're probably going to have to do that just because of parking.
That's our gut too. Nicole was wondering, so instead of having an elevator, is there a way to do a very long ramp around?
I love the idea of thinking outside the box. Yes and no. Your site doesn't slope that much. I was going to say if we have some topography, there might be a way that we can use that to our advantage and get folks from place to place. If you ever get a chance to look it up, it's a beautiful project, but it's called Tarbu Vitora. It's a Jewish school that I did down in Orange County. It was built on the side of a hillside, and it was a two-story building with no elevator. So it is possible, but in your case, I just don't think so.
Yeah.
The workaround that we might consider for that is there are ways that we can design our way out of an elevator. Equivalent facilitation is a term that's used in accessibility discussions. It looks a little something like if we had a library, it probably couldn't go upstairs unless there was an equivalent facilitation for library use downstairs.
Okay.
In the size of the building that we're probably going to be contemplating, though, I don't think that exception would apply. And I do think that the building codes alone would probably make you have an elevator in the building.
Okay.
I think the ADA too is like, if you've got somebody on crutches, a
Yeah.
ramp isn't helpful for them.
Yeah.
So the ADA laws would probably.
Gotcha.
I can tell you from past experience too that if we do end up designing a two-story building for you, an elevator is almost a necessity. It just makes the building so much more usable, whether you're bringing stuff upstairs or downstairs, or if your student population does have folks who have accessibility needs, whether it's wheelchairs or crutches, they will get used. And the number that we throw around sometimes for budgeting purposes, that an elevator probably costs you about $100,000 plus or minus all in. So it is an expense, but
Is
it's
that
not that
just
bad.
the initial expense, or is that factoring any kind of upkeep?
Long-term maintenance
Yeah,
costs.
that's just initial, and then your ongoing maintenance. Yeah.
Very true. Yes, it is.
What size are you talking?
Like what size for the square footage?
Yeah, 8 by 8 or
For an elevator?
12, yeah, for an elevator.
That's about right. Yeah, there are sizes that we have to comply with from the building code, which makes it possible for somebody on a gurney to be rolled in.
Right.
So if there was an emergency, they could take people out on a stretcher. So yeah, that's about the size, 8 by 8.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Kevin before we let him go at this very late hour? Okay. I will follow up with you tomorrow. And
Sounds good.
Anything else for us?
I did have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Yeah, they're my notes. Let's scrolling to the right page. Do you have any idea about project timeline? Sometimes we like to know if you absolutely have to be open for this particular school year or whatnot. Any thoughts about that?
We want to be in June of 27. So
Okay.
2.5 years.
That's it.
Yeah.
How?
Or sooner. Or sooner. That'd be good
I
too.
love that thought. How very kind of you to think that far in advance, because that's not a luxury I often get. So thank you. That sounds good. I did wonder, sometimes we find that charter schools have, I'll call them partners in these sorts of projects. They might be a community member who's interested in seeing the project, through to fruition, either in a, I don't know, a political sense or a financial sense. They could also be somebody who is in the building industry and is a close colleague or a contact that you want to keep involved in this project. Is there anybody in the community you guys are thinking about?
Just Chico Unified, right?
Okay.
Because of, and I mean, if we know of somebody that has funding and wants to be a partner, we are glad to involve them. So.
Okay. Sounds
Right
good.
now we don't, we
Yeah,
don't
but
have
no,
any
we
sugar
don't have
daddy
any,
sliding in
just
there.
our board, so,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. I think we talked a little bit about USDA yesterday, but
We did, and
anything going on there?
Nick thought it would not qualify because of it being in the city, of Chico.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I had a feeling.
yeah,
Have you
but
reached out to anybody there quite yet, though?
we have not. So I talked to Nick a little bit about it today when we met, so.
Okay, sounds good. I guess the last piece that would be helpful for us if we do get the opportunity to keep helping you out would be a future discussion, perhaps, on how exactly we could best provide service to you. In my presentation, I showed you that we can do a whole lot or we could do a whole little. We are no strangers to being scrappy on projects. As you saw with Stream Charter School, that thing was put together with a set of drawings that was good for permit. We didn't do all the flashy stuff. We didn't do the 3D animations or the renderings because they had a budget to meet. We met that. So if you guys do decide that the budget is what it is and we have to dial things back, just know that we are here for whatever services you might want, whether it's all or none.
Okay,
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Well, thank you all. It was a pleasure meeting you. And Trisha, I'm around all day tomorrow. So
Okay, I have a busy day tomorrow, but I will,
good.
I'm gonna try to do some follow-up for sure, so.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
April for our second annual Oaken Lands.
Oh, yeah, we'll have an Oaken Lands
Yeah.
in April, so.
What's the status? Do you have bands and location yet, or?
Is his band going to be there?
It's my wife's band, technically.
One so far, but we're working on getting more, and it
Yeah.
will be,
Cool.
it's in the second half of April.
Okay,
Do you have a venue yet by chance?
We do it, so far we've secured that same
the women's
venue.
Cool.
Mhm.
And one more time, the date again. Second half of
Oh,
April.
second half in April.
April. Okay. I'll spread the word.
I think it's the 26th.
Okay,
Cool.
it'll be good.
Yeah, and that's all
The
for,
26th.
that's all for field
26th.
trips.
Yeah, it's for our seventh grade field.
Great.
That's a
Seventh grade
field
Shakespeare.
trip fundraiser.
Yeah.
I
And we
love it.
send our kids on the best field
Yeah,
trips.
we do.
How
Really
cool.
Experiences, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear that you're doing it again. I had a chance. We were helping the band break down and cleaning up a little bit with everybody, and we heard that there weren't as many people as we would have all liked to see there. So
Right.
yeah.
I thought you might have thrown in the towel, but good for you for sticking with it. And
We still made some, yeah, we made enough to send them to Ashland, so,
no way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Oh, that makes me happy to hear that. I'll
Yeah.
share that with Leanne.
yeah.
Considering it was our first time ever doing that kind of endeavor, I think that we did a fantastic job, and
Yeah.
we look to
Absolutely.
be able to have even more of
Yeah,
more of a
More
community
turnout, yeah.
turnout as a second annual and third and fourth and so
Yeah.
forth.
yeah.
I love it. Well, whether we get the opportunity to work with you or not, we will spread the word, and I will be there as long as there's tacos.
Okay, you got it.
Nice.
Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, y'all. Have a great
Thanks.
evening.
You
You
too.
too. Thanks so
Bye-bye.
much.
Okay, bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Okay, so,
Glad that you got him on such short notice.
Yeah. Okay, so I totally skipped over a lot of our agenda, guys. I'm gonna back up just for a second, because I never asked for public comment. We kind of like jumped in. And I know we didn't really have any.
Missed that, because
No.
your first 5 minutes.
We didn't have anybody from the public that was on Zoom or in here, but I just want to give us that because Lauren did add after that,
Yeah.
just to make sure.
Comments, questions?
Yeah,
In the audience?
I did call the meeting to order and then we.
Yeah, and then we didn't do roll call or anything.
Yeah.
We got it, yeah. got
Oh, I
that
did
here.
on my paper here.
Oh,
I just
good.
thought I missed it.
Okay, so we did a motion to send all 3 firms to the board for next Tuesday's meeting, so it's Tuesday at 6 p.m. if anybody wants to come and hear their full presentations. And
We need more people making a decision. And
that's
well, we've already did that motion before
right?
Kat left, and that's charter. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
special meeting, so that
it's
will, that's
charter
the only
and
thing on the
facilities,
agenda.
if we can get everybody to come.
Yeah,
You want to give a recommendation at all, or? I don't know, decide.
you,
Are you ready?
It's hard to.
yeah, did anybody have any thoughts or?
I love the educational funding services. I
Oh,
want
with
that.
the LR?
Yeah, with the DLR
Okay.
group.
Yeah.
I really like Studio W.
I like Studio W
If they could just have a
best.
funding.
That was my thing, so if you could just follow up
I
with
can
them
ask
and
them.
ask them
We
if they
have
would
to have
have
a
a funding
funding
consultant, because
Service, yeah.
I was
funding
surprised
consultant.
at the size that they were. So
Studio
that
W?
wasn't- That wasn't something that they mentioned,
Yeah, I will ask him.
Mm.
I will follow up with them.
but we did go over a lot of.
So how are we feeling versus these 3 versus 450?
Sorry, what would be,
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling that way too.
Yeah,
these guys are.
Jen, what are your thoughts? Are you still there?
Jennifer Bryan. I'm gonna text her.
She's gonna
What
be
did
at
you say
Tuesday.
about the chat?
Oh.
Look, what did you mention?
Hmm?
Right before.
I'm read
I said sorry for 50.
That was
Oh, yeah.
609.
That was at 6.
Yeah.
That was 609,
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I liked them, but I think that would have just, everything would have been put back a lot.
These are
more
nice
with them.
presentations, and those
Yeah.
were great, to all
Oh,
put together,
sure.
last minute.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
Granted,
impressive.
I really
presentations,
like 'em,
but they have
yeah.
a lot of clout behind them, they have a lot of experience behind them, just the numbers are just amazing.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
The modulars that they shown, so.
DLR?
Yeah,
or-
so Studio W showed the ones that have a nice wood display.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
these modules are, you can, they're
Design.
great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then you have DLR and they're like, actually, this, all you get is this square box. and
Yeah.
You only paint the outside.
Yeah,
And
they
they
were-
said, and they also
they were-
said they only work with one. It sounded to me as if they only work with one company
Modular
and
company.
they can be late and they can come
Yeah.
without the proper
Yeah.
measurements and be
Yeah.
hard to
Yeah.
fit.
So-
That
They were
was a
not-
very good
they were
recommendation
not-
on.
Yeah, they were all about stick build in my
DLR.
personal feeling, and they seemed to lean way more towards stick build, and they were not real modular friendly, which I think with our budget, we're really gonna have to go to someone that is modular friendly. And
Dealer,
DLR didn't seem
Modular
to
friendly.
me that they're friendly with that, where RGA and Studio W were both really like, hey, we can definitely work and customize. I know the RGA really didn't, I mean, the only really example that we got for the modular were very boxy and
Totally,
basic.
could have been.
But that
present.
doesn't mean that they can't work with that.
Yeah,
But the communities that they worked in required that. And I think
Yeah.
that's what he was trying to portray was.
it was on
the
a
need.
string,
Yeah.
a shoe
Very-
string.
Shoestring,
but-
I thought DLR did a good job presenting different modulars and then modularized components of the
Yeah.
whole industry. I thought they
Yeah, they did a
weren't
2-story.
opposed to it.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't find that they
With
were
DLR.
opposed to it. Yeah.
I specifically wrote JK, he was opposed to it more so, and he was leaned way more towards stick built, a lot
Jeremy?
of his comments, Jeremy Kozak.
Yeah, I didn't get that feeling.
You didn't or you
No,
did?
I did.
Oh, he
Dealer.
kept saying, I wrote notes, he kept
Dealer.
saying that
He
there's
had-
very limited design.
He had pros and cons.
Finishes and modulars, and that keep in mind that even with that, you still have to do the interior plaster and finishes and all of that.
Yeah,
There's pros and cons.
He had his pros and cons, yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
good.
I like the pros and cons.
I don't know. I would-
Okay.
I mean,
My concern with RGA is they don't have the school experience as much, right? I
Right.
like that they're local.
Who did we hear
Yeah.
about RGA from?
yeah,
RGA,
that's almost-
no, Julie, with Chico
Julie.
Unified
Julie.
said they're a commercial builder and they have done a lot of work with Dan Gonzalez.
there we go.
Yeah,
Dan, they've done a lot of the architecture.
sounds like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think, Dan's comment on RGA was that, they aren't great like visionaries for designing, but
That's what it is.
at the end of the day, I don't know that we have the budget to design like
Yeah,
that first school,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think Dan also has a vision for himself. And he is like, this is my vision, now just design me the plans for it. So I don't know,
Nick Trovers, how does he involve again? Nick Trovers, the.
Nick Trover is a project
Project.
manager
Which
that
kind of in limbo.
RGA recommended, so I reached out to him and he was available today, so,
We're tabling that one for now.
yeah. So that's my only concern with RGA is they're not they don't have a lot of school experience, so they don't know about DSA, they're not gonna have that experience, they don't know about
But they
funding,
have super experience in the city.
but they have a lot
So
of
if we go
experience.
without the
And so does
GSA, they've
Studio
got
W.
connections in the city, and I bet we could get Dan Gonzalez to kick some people in the butt in the city,
Yeah,
get things moving.
well, and I think Studio W too, because it's Thai, they have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
in the-
Yeah, it's not local.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
If Studio W has
a
a
funding,
Kate Vega,
yeah,
like DLR,
that's what I think too.
that would be kind of my.
I kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, and other than that, then I like RGA and
I
Cap.
sent you an email, so I don't know if it's a relevant company or not, but I had talked to my mentor, because he used to work for a company that did bonding consulting for
Okay.
school bills.
Huh.
That's what he
Yeah.
did.
Um,
So he sent me the name, I forwarded to your
Okay.
email, so if you wanna look into it, see if it's something that's even feasible as to where the school is right now, but.
So I did talk to Nick Trover, which is the project manager, a little bit about bonds, so. Right now, the tough part is we don't know with Measure C if that passes or doesn't passes, and then even if it does passes, we don't know how much money we're gonna get from Measure C, right?
Yeah.
But we need to be ready when that happens with a presentation to submit to Chico Unified to be first in line for that money if it passes. So like, that's something we need to work on.
would that be something that Kate Vega would do for us as well? Or-
Well, I think that's something that we do in partner with, project manager if we had one, but
Right.
not if Chico Unified is our project manager, they're not gonna help us prepare
No,
something to submit to them. But I think it's something we do internally, Julie with Chico Unified, it's like it doesn't need to be super fancy, you just need to write out how you're meeting these qualifications.
Right.
And I think the more important part is we are first in line.
That
know,
sounds
when
like her
that-
emphasis, yeah.
Yeah, when at the
Be
meeting,
there.
right, be there
Yeah.
when it comes.
Be there.
And we don't know how much of that money we're gonna get right when we apply, so I think there's this bridge in between of financing that we're gonna have to come up with, but we don't know how many millions of dollars that is, so.
Right.
oh, that's right, so Kate Vega, man, those funding totals, did you guys see the funding total? It was $2 billion, 205 million.
Yes.
Of all that pool.
So she brought up Prop 2 and the state funding, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah, that was
Okay.
really impressive.
amazing.
Yeah.
This is really impressive.
$2 billion, like each, that we could,
Yeah.
not that.
and so with the bonds, so you can go, like, as an independent school, we can go out to the bond market with our own bonds.
Right.
So Nick talked to me about that today and try to help me understand it, so they did that, he helped Stream do that. To go out to the bond market for some of their stuff, and he said there is a fixed cost with going to the bond market, right? So it's not a percentage base, so it's like, let's say, for example, it's like $500,000 is your cost to go out and try to sell those bonds. So if you were going to the bond market for your school, you wanna make sure you're doing it for a significant amount of money, because your
Yes.
fixed costs are your fixed costs. So he's like, if you're only gonna need 3 million or 5 million, it may not be worth it to do that if you could get a traditional financing through like Golden Valley or Umpqua or a community bank. So he's like, you really need to figure out how much you need
Yeah.
to then decide if that's a good idea. So that's what I learned about the bond market
But
today.
that's much too,
Yeah.
because we don't know
Yeah,
how
but I don't
much.
that company does.
That you sent me?
additional.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will
so,
look at it and
yeah.
I will definitely call them. Okay, so all three are gonna present to the board next week. And I will sure learn more stuff in the next week
Oh my gosh,
that
I'm
I'm
learning so much.
Good job, good job.
Are either of
Thanks.
the architects from our last meeting, are they gonna be presenting too, or did they already?
Well,
present?
450 is the only one that's presented. That's the
Oh,
only
you're
one,
right.
yeah.
You're right, because the other one canceled.
And they've already presented, so
Yeah.
I did follow up with them today, just because I feel like they've been waiting, saying, hey, have a couple more presentations this week and next week. By the end of next week, I should be able to.
It was good that you follow up.
Yeah, I just
They
feel bad
didn't feel
leaving them
like they're
hanging, yeah.
leaving.
So, one of the things, Studio W, I mean, he just off the cuff gave a $25 million.
Which seems pretty
Oh,
in
yeah.
line with everybody else.
Right, well, except for 450 was 39 million.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
way up there, so it's
Yeah.
sounds like
HMC spreadsheet was 18 to 30
30,
million,
yeah,
correct, something like
Yeah,
that, right?
I saw that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like DLR didn't give.
David didn't give
And
it.
the range
gave
from
specific numbers.
what the budget was and what I looked a lot of that is what the estimated budget and what the total cost was.
Yes,
And I was trying to be like, okay, what percentage? was
I
like
know,
On
yeah,
and over or pretty close
Yeah.
to it.
yeah.
DLR did give 2 different timelines.
Of
That
the
was
things
pretty
that
cool.
was already.
I thought that was
completed
creative,
anyways.
that they're like, you could speed it up, right,
Yeah.
by overlapping things.
Right,
Yeah,
94 weeks compared to like 156 weeks.
yeah,
Yeah.
I thought
liked
that was creative.
too.
Yeah.
That was creative. I did like that.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit
Mm,
confused
yeah.
about the DSA or not the DSA.
yeah,
It felt to me like when we talked to Julie that it'd be better to go without the
that
DSA
is
process
what
and deal
Julie
with the
said.
city. And then,
But both Studio W
Uh-huh.
and DLR have both said with DSA, you know what you're gonna
The
get.
devil, you know.
It's better
is
long
the
term.
what- the
Yeah,
gold that
and
he
well, and it's
used.
better long term, but they both have said they're not that bad, where I think 450 made it sound like DSA was like this
Huge
horror,
ordeal.
like this,
Yeah.
but the two of them have said it's not that bad.
Thought
Yeah,
you
like
dealt
you
with it
said,
before.
the devil. you
so
know.
I'm
Yeah.
confused. I don't know who to believe. And then another thing I'm kind of worried about is Julie now thinks she's our project manager and I don't
Well, I'm
I
gonna get some
wonder how-
clarification from that.
flexible.
I'm
that
gonna get
she's
some
gonna be for
clarification. I
us.
think if Chico Unified is gonna project manage and we don't have to pay for a project manager,
Right,
That's
so what do
actually
they offer?
great.
But what do they offer?
But-
So-
Yeah.
but we need
But
to know
are they
what
gonna
does that
tell us-
include? What are they going to
Yeah,
do?
we wanna
You
make
ever
sure
do
that we're
that?
having a full
Yeah.
service.
Yeah, we need to
Maybe
make
there's
sure
some
somebody's
down.
double checking our plans, making sure we're not missing anything, because that can be really expensive down the road.
Yeah, it feels like Julie's gonna be looking out for.
Yeah.
Because we've seen the other
That's what it
topics.
breaks
Yeah.
down to, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Did she need to present work to us?
We gotta see if we're gonna hire her or not.
Ask her if we can crash the project.
So I think we need to set another meeting date, to talk about,
I'm nervous having the board decide this for us.
you're nervous?
Yeah, that's true. I'd rather us decide.
Well, we can give a recommendation to the board,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah,
think
you
that's
can give
would be
your
great if you can come to the
Yeah,
meeting
I'll be there.
on Tuesday
I'll be there.
to put our input in, and hear a little bit, and then they'll have more time to
Yeah,
put stuff together.
You probably already
Cause
know. you
we're-
wrote this one.
we're all, I
I
think we're all on the same page, like all this, they're gonna like right now, kind of, you
Yeah,
know,
Yeah.
our minds have melded together, we're like, okay,
Yeah.
we kind of know what we want, need.
yeah,
So it's been a long time coming, I could throw it in the board's lap right now, I'm just like, oh, I could just see a lot of, I don't know, hopefully
Yeah.
not, I'll think
Yeah.
positively. I'm
well,
not-
you have two of us that are here.
Yeah, yeah,
Not the boss.
Yeah.
I think you know I'm making.
There you go, Vicky.
Just be
Okay.
quiet.
Girl.
there you go.
It's not.
So our,
Okay, here's your chocolate, here's your chocolate.
All
Yeah.
right.
our next meeting, I would like to talk more about project manager, like get more information from Chico Unified. If you were going to act as our project manager, what is your scope? What are you
Yeah.
doing? And understand
We
that
need
role a
those
little bit
details.
more.
Yeah.
And make a decision on if we think as a facilities committee, we need a independent project manager, or as Lindsay called it, an owner's representative.
Yeah,
So.
I don't feel like Julie is gonna really, she's gonna represent her job and her
Yeah.
district.
I agree.
And we
Well, I
want to
think
advocate. for
There's
us.
Julie is in the beginning phases, and then once we kind of take the next step, it gets passed to a project manager in Chico
Oh.
Unified.
Okay.
Oh, in
Yeah.
another district person.
Yes,
Okay.
so I want to understand that a little bit better. So
Okay.
I will maybe have Julie maybe even come the next time to kind
Yeah.
of present to
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
about what they will and will not do, and maybe she
Yeah.
can bring a project manager with her. So we can really
That would be
understand that.
wonderful.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I wonder if she
It'd be
cringes when
nice
she
if
sees
they-
my phone number. But I don't know.
Represent us. It'd be good if they were there, if they represented us, because they know all the ins and outs, and it's like on them
Yeah.
to make sure that we're good.
Well, and I have asked her, she's included in the invites. Maggie's included her in the invites to the facilities
Good.
committee. She did come into the board. I had her come to the board
Right.
meeting last week just because I wanted the board to hear Chico Unified and what their stance is.
Yeah.
But I do feel like if they're gonna be our project manager, they need to be at these meetings.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I hope that she's
That's-
at
Yeah, big.
the meeting next week when we do our.
Yeah.
Yeah, cause I'm not gonna get that lovey cushy, I'll be right here for you feeling if we don't.
Yeah.
Then I'm kind of
That's
like,
cool.
okay, you keep on knocking, but you won't let us in.
And then
Like,
that's what I told her today. I'm like, I feel like we're supposed to make this big decision, but we don't have the knowledge to make this big decision. Like,
Yeah.
and that's why I feel like I need a project manager
Yeah,
that's
that's
got,
familiar.
that's-
has
yeah,
the background and
yeah.
experience.
and she's like, so that's kind of where we're at.
So the board meeting is,
Tuesday at 6. Yeah, this next
And the
Tuesday.
one thing that I wrote down that I got that he had said about the DSA benefits. I thought was interesting that the facility could become ready to sell later, and I'm like,
So like if
but-
we wanted to sell it back to the district because we needed a bigger campus.
oh.
Or we wanted to relocate somewhere else,
Gotcha.
then it's
And then
already, they
what
can
I-
use it as a public school site.
Gotcha.
Yeah, without the DSA.
I think that was
I don't
make
foresee
it
us
public
even
school.
needing to do that. Because
I
we're
don't-
going in such a new area that's really going to get built up.
Well, but let's say we decide we just have this crazy wait list and we need more space.
But what we could do with that is we could keep that site and make a even like,
Junior
like
high.
say, a junior high site or a K through 5th or whatever and make and get a new
Yeah,
little plot.
absolutely.
That's just for junior high.
it's just theoretical, but.
Yeah, but more than likely, it's not gonna be, I don't think it should be a huge part of us making that.
Yeah,
decision.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so what is everybody's, like, if we don't meet next week, but we meet the week after,
The
like in
Tuesday?
2 weeks? I know I've been like hammering and we've been meeting a lot.
No, we
but
need to though.
Just
We
feel like
get it going.
Vicky and I get to double time meet because we come here and then we go to Charter Trail. So,
Mhm. Okay, you
That
said
sounds
not
good.
next week, but the week after, not Halloween week.
The
So
fifth,
technically the first week of November is where
Yeah,
you're
that's
looking.
the sick.
the fifth. is
The
it
4th
Tuesday?
or
The
the
5th I
8th?
cannot do.
Yes. Election day is the 5th, and that's also a PC meeting, so yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and
I can do
the 8th,
Monday.
There's no school, FYI.
Yes.
Oh, wait, no, that's Inspire,
true. I'm like,
sorry.
what? I
No,
don't have
that's
that in my
for
calendar.
Inspire.
Okay,
Ours is next, the Monday.
so I can do Monday, I can do Wednesday, I can't do Thursday.
I can't do Monday, the 4th, because that's Inspire's fall concert,
Okay,
and I got kids in there.
Is it?
Wednesday, the 6th?
That
Objective
looks
me.
good to me.
6,
The-
4:15,
6th.
6 p.m.
Well, I think 5:45 is the earliest we can do, if that
Oh.
works.
Okay.
So, and okay, so I can check. To make sure
Facilities
Jen,
Committee on the 6th.
Miss Jennifer is
6 p.m.
5:45. Yeah, try to start a little
And
bit.
then that would just be meeting with Julie.
Well, I will try to get, the
Hopefully.
focus will be project manager.
Okay,
Let's talk about
focus,
project
thank you.
manager and anything else that comes out of charter in case something gets kicked back that we need to talk more about.
Good.
And I will try to have Julie or Chico Unified at that meeting. If anything, just at the beginning to kind of give us an overview and then we could have discussion. So.
Cool.
Anything else that we think that we need to be working on or thinking of?
This is the most comfortable I felt in one of these meetings in a long time. So good
Okay.
job there.
I agree.
Good, good.
Yeah, you've done a marvelous
Oh,
job,
thank you.
Trisha,
Thanks.
doing all of
Amazing.
this and organizing it all. You really
Thank-
have done marvelous job. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Many.
I secretly love
time and
project
effort and-
management.
Do you
I think-
really?
I think-
You're enjoying
Yeah.
yourself, but I hope it stays that way.
Yeah.
I hope you continue to enjoy it.
Um,
She's really good at it. I couldn't.
the
You
only-
guys should have heard her talking to Dan Gonzalez today.
I would
It's
like
just
that.
like, they were just like
Seamless,
ideas.
right?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so glad you were there.
That's wonderful.
Thanks for setting it up.
Thanks for having me on the team.
Yeah, The other thing is the park, getting Dan Gonzalez some ideas back on that park.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to, like, if you guys can think about that, I will put that on the agenda. Park,
For the
park
sixth
space.
also.
Yeah, to really get him some, because
Yeah.
they're starting that design. Get him some ideas on what we would like to see there. And I'm sure
Shade,
shade,
just some shade, anybody?
yeah,
Still right out there.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
really is, huh? Even those little oaks on the creek are just little.
Oh, the
oaks.
other thing
They're
is-
not the big
they're
valley
not the
oaks.
Did we, it was our charter council that we picked the date for the celebration? Or was it here?
Oh,
It was charter that we.
it
picked
was
the date.
charter, we chose.
we
the
picked a date.
Thursday.
And was it November?
It was this
It
Thursday.
is in November.
Sure.
Yes. No. I thought I knew. It's not that.
Was it the 21st? Thursday, the 21st?
It was on it was, I wanna say.
We did do it
was
on a
right
it
before,
is a
like,
Thursday because we
and
were
then
doing
I
a
wanna
short
say there's
day.
an in-service day after that. Does that ring a bell?
Say again?
The next
We were
day
gonna
is
have it on
in-service?
Thursday, and I wanted to say that they had scheduled an in-service
Well,
day.
Friday, November 22nd is early release for conferences. So would have been the 21st.
Friday, or what?
No.
Let's see.
like
The 22nd
21st,
is
I can't
early
remember,
dismissal?
why can't I-
You said the 22nd is early dismissal?
For conferences.
I think that's it then.
So it would be the
The
21st on a
I think
Thursday.
it's the 21st then. Yeah.
Oh, let me
That's
look.
for the land.
I have my
Wait,
notes.
when
Hold on.
is, that's Thanksgiving, isn't it?
No,
It's
the
the
next
third
week.
Thursday, that's Thanksgiving.
Last
Wait.
week.
Ooh, land and rule, right here.
What?
That's the facilities one.
Karen knows,
Thanksgiving on 28th.
yeah. When it
Yeah,
gets to break.
okay, well, adjourn, so the
After
6th,
Thanksgiving.
think about park ideas. And we're going to do the celebration of life. I'm pretty sure it's on the 21st.
Celebration of life, land acknowledgement.
Uh-huh.
I know you're talking about it. I know you're talking about it.
That's Thanksgiving, Dave.
Celebration of, no, the 28th is Thanksgiving. No, the next week is Thanksgiving.
Sure.
Yeah, well, that's what my calendar says.
Oh,
But it
we
was
have
always
it,
the
third, no,
third.
I have the correct date, it's Thursday, December 5th.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it. It
I
was,
put it
'cause
in my
we couldn't-
calendar,
Yeah.
right there.
Oh, I have it in my calendar too.
See, cause I started to type it
Kind of
in,
made
and
it
then
all
it
work,
showed me
so.
I had that in my calendar, and I had to
Everything's
search
written
for it.
down.
So it's from 1 to 1:35. They said
Okay,
it'd only
sounds
be like a
like-
half an hour. And if we wanted to do anything more than that, we could, but for the land acknowledgement, it'd be done probably, they said
Well,
it
it's
might
gonna be
be about 20 minutes.
Both
The
five
Machupta will be
at
there
1
Mhm.
p.m.
with a ceremony for us
Uh-huh.
to join into.
Yes,
And I was
and a little
thinking,
dance.
for the children that show up, we get a rock out of that huge pile, clean them up, and have every kid leave a handprint on a rock, and then
Oh,
put the
that's
rock
beautiful.
in a,
A little heart shape or something.
Yeah.
just something to acknowledge the children are here.
Yeah.
These are, it's just to
A
acknowledge the
big
children.
Bio or something, no.
Yeah.
Bio.
But we should,
that
we
didn't
should
come out
get a
right.
sign, we should get a sign
like
up that
heart.
says future home.
Yeah,
Right.
and that was the other thing, big thing, I think if we got a sign that said future home of Blue Oak, that,
Yes.
because if people were thinking about sending their kids to school soon,
Right.
and they know we're gonna be there in a couple years, maybe they would start them here.
Now everybody wants to know what's going in here. what's
Yeah.
going on, so it's,
Yeah,
should we check with Dan that first?
Yeah.
that would probably be a
It's
good
not-
day to
non-disclosure
just run it
stuff.
by him.
Sign,
Here's a crazy idea. What if we just relied on cards? Park for our field and we didn't bother trying to get a space on our land and just went out single
I
story?
vote yes.
I think that's, my only thing is that's not a secure space.
It's not
Safety-
secure.
Safety
We
guy,
still could put in smaller, maybe spaces in there. I don't know, just this, I don't know, I was just thinking. that.
yeah, that's my only thought, is like, how are the teachers gonna manage watching, getting eyeballs on all the kids?
Right.
Well, it is an open area. And there is, so there's no place for them to hide unless they put some sort of structures up there.
Well, there isn't all the
Or-
trees, though.
Just a
Yeah,
good
because it
But
moves
that's,
around.
but that's away from the
Field.
Yes, it is away from the
the
field.
open field.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do need a secure area for recesses and such.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole,
That's-
yeah,
Yeah.
but the big field,
Big field, yeah.
the soccer field or the javelin throwing field, we could do that at on the card grass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that is the plan.
yeah, definitely. I was just thinking,
Um,
money wise, I was thinking instead of going up, it
yeah.
costs more, but
But
And-
then I
Oh,
was
yeah.
surprised because RGA, when we asked him, he was like, oh, sometimes it can be
It'd be
more
less
cost
expensive,
efficient.
yeah.
And he was the first one that said that.
Yeah,
What can be more cost? Oh,
That
it's
sometimes doing
stories.
the two-story
Yeah.
can be more cost
Yeah.
efficient too.
the other thing is we need to cut the grass is all pretty tall there.
Oh, yeah.
So once we are able, after we get a few rains, we're gonna need to pay to get that cleared.
Oh, and on the,
Before-
Because we're not gonna be
Relawn.
moving dirt, we're not gonna be moving dirt anytime soon and
or even our lot.
yeah,
Oh,
on our lot,
okay.
because by next summer, I think we're still gonna be at this point and it's gonna be a fire. We're
Okay.
gonna get,
Oh, yeah.
so we need to do it. I think we need to get some prices. Dan was gonna look into people that they've used
And
in the
he
past.
knows, yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
really.
And then we can
suggestion.
end on the,
2.5 acres.
yeah. So you see somebody with a tractor, like it has like a pull behind.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not that much space. And there is that one tall rock pile there, but,
Yeah,
Yeah, 2.4.
that might be something I can do.
okay, so just, yeah, something to think
Okay.
about.
All
And we'll end, unless anybody else, I'll end on a fun note. I asked my kids before I came, I said, I'm going to go talk about the new school. Do you have anything, any ideas, So Landon says, he's like, I heard it's gonna be 2 stories. I'm like, yeah, that's what we're talking about. He's like, I think you should put a slide from the 2nd story down for kids to get out. I'm like,
That's cute.
that's actually a really good idea.
That's really sweet.
You know what that reminds me of? Barbie and the Tree House.
I mean, yeah,
So-
that's, zip line would be great, not a bad idea,
Oh,
but slide would be a little more safe for everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
That's what popped in my head first too. is zip
Slide
line.
would be
Zip line.
good for
Slide
all
would be
days.
nice.
Lots of lawsuits with that one.
As
I think there'd be a line to get downstairs, but.
Right? People just run
long as there are no
upstairs.
trampolines, I think we'll be good.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna call adjournment at 8:31.
All righty.
Good job.
Okay, thanks guys for staying late.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. We're making progress.
Yeah, we are.
Yes, this is a big step.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, it's very
Bye,
very
Arson.
exciting.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lauren.
I was
good night.
apprehensive about after the first couple presenters, the one server dude.